Chapter 1205. The Tao family changed owner. Gu Yundong was stunned. She looked at Qin Wenzheng and then at the people behind him. The person behind Qin Wenzheng smiled at her and scratched his head. Gu Yundong was familiar with his expression. Sister Gu, so this is your home? It's so big and spectacular. Gu Yundong suddenly came back to her senses. Qin Shu? Why are you here? Qin Shu looked at Qin Wenzheng. Mr. Qin brought me here. He said that you live here and that you and brother Xiao are getting married tomorrow, so I wanted to come and take a look. Gu Yundong quickly stepped aside. Come in first. Let's talk inside. Qin Shu let out a sigh and walked inside happily. Along the way, he looked around the Gu family's large house. He was still as curious as the young man who had just walked out of Qinnan village. When he saw Gu Dajiang and the others along the way, he immediately greeted them obediently. The others were also quite curious about Qin Shu. They looked up and sized him up. Qin Shu immediately felt embarrassed. It was not until the three of them reached the study that he slowly exhaled. Gu Yundong poured him a cup of sugar water. Qin Shu took a sip slowly and his eyes widened in joy. It's delicious. Gu Yundong smiled. This is made with white sugar. If you like it, I'll give you a packet later. Qin Shu did not know in the past. Later on, when he was on the mountain, he had more or less heard that white sugar was a precious thing. He immediately shook his head. When he lowered his head to drink tea, he began to take small sips. Gu Yundong laughed and looked up at Qin Wenzheng. Isn't Qin Shu on the mountain? Why did you bring him here? Qin Wenzheng also took a sip of tea. After a moment, he said, the Tao family has changed owners. Gu Yundong was stunned. Then, her eyes lit up. Tao Feng and Tao Yen pushed Master Tao out. Yes. Qin Wenzheng nodded. My original intention was to use Master Tao's accident to lure out the person behind him. Things were indeed progressing very smoothly. Just as Master Tao was about to be replaced by his two sons, someone helped him from behind. Unfortunately, with me around, Tao Feng and Tao Yen were naturally prepared. Even if Master Tao had someone to help him, he only struggled a little. That person saw that Master Tao was in a hopeless situation and directly treated him as an abandoned pawn to silence him. Gu Yundong was stunned. Master Tao is dead? Yes, he was poisoned to death. That person was probably angry that Tao Feng and Tao Yen had ruined his plans and wanted to pin the crime of angering Master Tao to death on the two of them. Therefore, Master Tao vomited blood when he quarreled with Tao Feng and died on the spot. Fortunately, Tao Feng and Tao Yen were prepared. They immediately found a doctor to treat him and confirmed that Master Tao had been poisoned to death. But who was the murderer? It was still an unsolved case. It was just stored in the government's records. As for Tao Xing, he didn't have much of a future in the first place. He only did this because Master Tao doted on him. Now that Master Tao was dead, old Madame Tao was sick in bed from anger, and Madame Tao had been sent to prison because she had killed the late wife many years ago. Tao Xing did not even have the courage to avenge his parents in the face of the two brothers, who were united and aggressive. Tao Feng sent him straight to the villa and let him guard a small dilapidated villa for the rest of his life. The Tao family's matter ended, and the mastermind who killed Master Tao fell into Qin Wenzheng's eyes. Qin Wenzheng chased the guy all the way into the mountain. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1206. Qin Wenzheng is leaving. However, that person disappeared after entering the mountain. If not for Qin Shu's help, I'm afraid we would have returned empty-handed this time. As Qin Wenzheng spoke, he looked at Qin Shu, who was eating pastries curiously. The latter immediately retracted his hand, feeling extremely embarrassed. Gu Yundong quickly pushed the plate in front of him. Eat them. I specially brought them over for you to eat. If you refuse them, you won't be treating me as your sister. Qin Shu hurriedly grabbed two and stuffed them into his mouth. Qin Wenjing laughed and continued, Qin Shu is familiar with the mountains. He also saw that person enter the mountains with his own eyes. There's a stronghold in the mountains. Qin Shu brought our people secretly into the stronghold and found a secret passage. Through that secret passage, we found a mine. Gu Yundong's eyes widened. A mine? It's not a very big mine, Qin Wenjing said. But that's an iron mine. Those people captured many people to mine for them. The iron ores from the mine are used to forge weapons. The village Qin Shu is in is only the outermost area. The food in the mine was transported through that village. If not for that secret passage, we wouldn't have been able to find that small mine. This was also the reason why Qin Wenjing didn't take action when he learned about this stronghold from Gu Yundong. Even if they had taken down this small village back then, it would have been useless. There were only about 10 families in the village, and at most, they would have been accused of being bandits. However, in this way, they would never be able to find that small mine. At this point, Qin Wenjing couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. I told you before that I was in Fengkai County to investigate something. Actually, it was for this mine. Back then, someone risked his life to escape from the small mine. Coincidentally, I met him. Unfortunately, that person died before he could say the exact location. He reported this matter to the current emperor, who was still the crown prince at that time. The emperor asked him to find out the location of the mine, so he stayed in Fengkai County as a teacher. Gu Yundong was enlightened. So that was the case. No wonder Qin Wenjing had asked Xiaoxi Yuan a few times about the Nine Tigers Mountain. No wonder Dai Wenhua had asked Xiaoxi Yuan to bring them deep into the Nine Tigers Mountain in the name of hunting. Unfortunately, the Nine Tigers Mountain was too big, and there were many dangerous beasts inside. It was too difficult to find such a hidden mine. Fortunately, there was a huge breakthrough. However, Qin Wenjing still sighed. Unfortunately, we found the mine, but we didn't find the person behind it. We only know that that person is in the capital. Gu Yundong suddenly realized something. Her eyes flickered and she asked in a low voice, You are going back to the capital? Yes. As expected. Gu Yundong felt a little reluctant. Although they usually argued and despised each other, they were already friends. They had worked together more than once or twice. She had helped Qin Wenjing a few times, and Qin Wenjing similarly did not treat her as an outsider and protected her the entire time. But don't worry. Even if I leave, no one will dare to touch your workshops now. Not to mention anything else, the few big families in the county have a good relationship with you. Wasn't that so? There was no need to mention the Lu family. The Peng family also took good care of Gu Yundong. Without Master Tao in charge of the Tao family, they were also very friendly to Gu Yundong. The Zhang family was even directly destroyed. The new pastry shop in the county had already formed a cooperative relationship with Gu Yundong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1207, Bring Qin Shu along. Speaking of which, Qin Wenjing had never seen a small workshop with such connections. Moreover, Gu Yundong and Xiaoxi Yuan were not easy to bully. Therefore, there was nothing to worry about when Qin Wenjing left this time. Gu Yundong sighed inwardly and asked in a low voice, When are you leaving? I will leave after you get married. The emperor has already issued a decree to urge me to return to the capital. As for my students, they are still studying in the school for the time being. Mr. Fan is still around, but the school won't be open at the end of the year. I will arrange for other students to go to Dongyi Academy. I've already spoken to the dean there. As for Yun Shu and Yuanji, I still have to ask for your opinions. Yes, this was also a problem. Gu Yundong frowned. There's no hurry. I'll discuss it with father and the others later. All right. Qin Wenjing nodded. He suddenly glanced at Qin Shu and said, There's one more thing. I plan to bring Qin Shu with me to the capital. Gu Yundong was stunned and turned to look at Qin Shu. Qin Shu was so shocked that he forgot to eat his pastries. His mouth was full and his face was filled with shock. Obviously, he did not know about it before. Seeing that the two people in the study were looking at him, Qin Shu hurriedly wiped the corners of his mouth and swallowed the pastry. He stammered, "Mr. Qin, what did you say? You want to take me to the capital?" Oh my God, that was the capital. Uncle Village Chief had said that it was under the emperor's feet. It was the most prosperous and desirable place in the Dajin country. He had never even been to the county city before. Now, he could go to the capital? Qin Shu blinked. After a while, he suddenly shook his head and said, "No, I promised Sister Gu that I would follow her to see the world in the future." Qin Wenzheng looked at Gu Yundong, who was deep in thought. To be honest, with Qin Shu's personality, he was actually not suitable to go to a complicated territory like the capital. Over there, not to mention Qin Shu, even Qin Wenzheng had to be careful not to make a mistake. The people Qin Shu had interacted with in the past were very simple. The most complicated ones were the people in the village. They might have grown a little these days, but the waters in the capital were too deep. However, a person like Qin Wenzheng could learn a lot of skills by his side. It was also a huge benefit to Qin Shu. After a pause, she looked at Qin Shu and asked, "Then do you want to go to the capital? Do you want to stay by Mr. Qin's side?" Qin Shu was stunned. This. Did he want to? Should he say yes or no? Qin Shu glanced at Qin Wenzheng. Actually, this Mr. Qin was very powerful. Back on the mountain, he had personally seen Mr. Qin calmly commanding others. He had watched as the man faced the leader of the mine with a sword without changing his expression. Mr. Qin seemed to be very powerful, 100 times more powerful than anyone he had ever seen. Qin Shu wanted to follow him. He wanted to learn from him. Alright, Gu Yundong did not need him to answer. Just by looking at his eyes, she could tell what he was thinking. After all, this person really did not know how to hide himself. Alright, then you can follow Mr. Qin. From now on, you should learn more and talk less, okay? Watch more, learn more, and speak less. These words would accompany Qin Shu's growth in the future, causing him to be pulled back a few times before making mistakes. Qin Shu nodded vigorously. This matter was settled just like that. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1208, Big Day. Qin Wenzheng told her not to worry. It was not to the extent that he could not even protect Qin Shu. He has made a contribution this time. It's not too much to ask the emperor for a reward. Although Qin Shu has little contact with outsiders, he's sincere. He's actually quite smart. If he's taught well, his future will definitely not be bad. Gu Yundong nodded. Wasn't she thinking the same? However, when he left home, he did not inform the chief of his village. Although I got someone to send a letter to Qinnan village later, it's best for Qin Shu to go back and say goodbye before he goes to the capital, lest they worry. Upon hearing this, Qin Shu immediately stopped drinking tea. He lowered his head slightly and blamed himself. It's all my fault. Qin Wenzheng agreed. After we finish your wedding banquet tomorrow, let him go back. After the matter was settled, Gu Yundong still had things to do. As she spoke, the people outside had already called her several times. Gu Yundong opened the door of the study and got someone to arrange for Qin Shu to stay in the Gu residence for the day. Qin Wenzheng left first. Qin Shu was very happy to be able to stay in Yongfu village for a night. Seeing that the Gu family was busy, he immediately helped. In just one afternoon, he had actually found out a lot of things. Gu Yundong finally understood why Qin Wenzheng had brought Qin Shu along. This person was simply good at gathering information. But Gu Yundong did not have the time to pay attention to Qin Shu. The night before the wedding, Aunt Ke had chased her to bed early to sleep. The next morning, far before dawn, Aunt Ke dug her out again. She sat on the stool in a daze and let someone put makeup on her. Gu Yundong was completely awakened by the makeup artist's action of twisting her face. The pain was not just a little, it was simply unbearable. However, Aunt Ku and eldest Aunt Gu were pressing on her shoulders, as if they were afraid that she would stand up and kick the makeup artist over. Just endure it. Every bride will have to go through this. Look, after your face is twisted, your appearance will immediately change. Your entire face will be smooth. Gu Yundong was about to cry. Is that so? She raised her hand to touch it, but Aunt Ku slapped her away. Gu Yundong was extremely aggrieved. Her face was full of collagen, and her skin was as smooth as a peeled egg. Why did she need to have her face twisted like this? It was strange. Back then, when little Aunt got married, she was also watching from the side. But she didn't see Auntie in pain. Why was it so painful when it came to her? Fortunately, there was Madame Yang who doted on her. As she blew on her, she whispered, "Dong Dong, I wanted to save you, but there were too many of them. I couldn't beat them. They didn't even allow me to call your father. They're too evil." As she spoke, she got angry and glared at eldest Aunt Gu a few times. Gu Yundong laughed because of her. Ignoring the pain, she held Madame Yang's hand and said, "It's fine. Mother will blow on it for me. It doesn't hurt." Madame Yang laughed. As Gu Yundong watched, all her emotions turned into reluctance. At this moment, she had a feeling that she was really going to get married today. Looking at Madame Yang, who was still in a daze, Gu Yundong seemed to have returned to the time when she was escaping from the famine. Madame Yang carried her and walked forward step by step with difficulty. It seemed to be yesterday. "Dong Dong, what's wrong? Does it hurt?" Madame Yang suddenly hit the makeup artist's hand in a panic. "Don't do it anymore. My Dong Dong is hurting. She hurts too much. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1209, Makeup Gifts. Everyone in the room was shocked by Madame Yang. Eldest Aunt Gu was about to come forward when Gu Yundong hurriedly raised her hand to stop her. She hugged Madame Yang and patted her back gently. She said in a low voice, "Mother, it doesn't hurt. I'm fine. I'm not afraid." Madame Yang slowly calmed down, but she was still worried. She raised her hand and touched her face. The makeup artist was extremely anxious. Afraid that Madame Yang would roughen the bride's face again, she wanted to go forward and persuade her. Eldest Aunt Gu waved her hand. She could only sigh and step back. Gu Yundong comforted Madame Yang before holding her hand. She let her sit beside her and asked the makeup artist to put on her makeup again. Perhaps because their palms were connected, Madame Yang's heart also calmed down. She tilted her head and looked at her, saying, "Our Dong Dong is really good looking. She's better looking than anyone else. It's because mother is good looking that she gave birth to such a beautiful daughter like me." Madame Yang smiled until her eyes narrowed. She turned to look at eldest Aunt Gu and said smugly, "Dong Dong said that I'm good looking." Eldest Aunt Gu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yes, yes, yes. Of course you look good." As she spoke, her heart ached when she looked at Madame Yang. She was originally a good sister-in-law, but because of those bastards from the Gu family, she became like this. Now that Yundong was married, as the biological mother, she was still muddle-headed and did not realize anything. In fact, she couldn't even send her daughter off to get married soberly. She couldn't talk to Yundong on the night before she got married like other mothers and tell her what to pay attention to when she got married, let alone prepare a dowry for her daughter personally. In the future, when her illness was cured, this matter would probably become her greatest regret. Eldest Aunt Gu thought about it and could not bear to stay any longer, so she left the room. However, after a while, she came in again with a smile on her face. "Guests are here. Old Master Liu's family is here." It was still early. Old Master Liu had a good relationship with Gu Yundong and came quite quickly. Gu Yundong looked up and saw Liu Yan enter happily. As soon as she entered, her eyes lit up. Yundong is so beautiful today that I can't move my eyes. Sister Lu, you're exaggerating. Gu Yundong let her sit. However, Lu Yan called for a maid behind her and handed over a box. I'm not exaggerating. Everyone's eyes are bright. Here, this is a makeup gift for you. Keep it well. Gu Yundong was stunned. She opened the box and saw a whole set of makeups inside. Before she could say anything, the others in the room widened their eyes. At this moment, in addition to eldest Aunt Gu and the others, there were also a few wives from the village. There were Dong Shilan and Madame Zhou, who were familiar with Gu Yundong, and there were also people who had come purely to see the bride and had yet to leave. Gu Yundong's room was huge. Even if these people entered, it would not be crowded. At this moment, when they saw the box of makeups, the few of them whispered and exclaimed. The Lu family is really generous. A full set of makeups should cost at least 20 taels, right? 20 taels? I think it's at least 50 taels. The Lu family is indeed a rich family in our county. If you give me those makeups, it'll go crazy. Madame Zhou wiped her face. These ignorant people were saying this in front of Miss Lu. Wasn't it embarrassing? She frowned and pulled those women out. All right. You've seen the bride. There are so many people here. Don't stay here. Go outside and help. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:10. Everyone is here. After they left, Gu Yundong shook her head and said to Lu Yan, it's too expensive. Lu Yan sat beside her and said softly, it's not expensive. If it weren't for the fact that he was afraid that you wouldn't accept it, my father would have prepared a few more sets. This is a token of our family's appreciation. It's to thank you for letting that silly brother of mine not be tricked by the Zhang family. No matter what, you have to accept it. Since she had said so, Gu Yundong could not say anything else and nodded. Only then did Lu Yan smile. She knew about the Zhang family's matters. At this moment, she couldn't help but sigh that fools were blessed. Although her brother wasn't very promising, he had a good friend. She chatted with Gu Yundong for a while before leaving. After a while, Gu Yundong heard the Tao family's voice again. Then, Qin Wenzheng and his wife came over. Madame Gu also came to see her and gave her some makeup gifts. Unexpectedly, just as she left, Tong Shui Tao came over to say that young master and young madam of the Peng family had arrived. Gu Yundong was stunned. She had indeed sent an invitation to Peng Zhongfei when she got married. After all, they were friends. She had to give him an invitation. However, she felt that with Peng Zhongfei's attitude of avoiding her, he probably wouldn't come. He would most likely find an excuse to reject her. She did not expect him to really come. Not only did she come, but she also brought Madame Yao with her. Gu Yundong's forehead twitched slightly. She did not like Madame Yao at all. Whenever she thought of her, she would think of Gu Xiener. However, thinking of the devil. Madame Yao came in after a while. At this moment, other than Madame Yang and the makeup artist, everyone else had gone out. Aunt Ku and Gu Dafeng went out to entertain the guests, while Madame Zhou and Dong Shilan went to Xiaoqi Yuan's house to help. Shen Sidian went to chat with Madame Lu and Madame Gu. Therefore, after Madame Yao entered, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. Oh, why did this woman look like she had ill intentions? Madame Yao also had a box in her hand, which was naturally not as big as the one Lu Yan had brought. She placed the box on the table and said with a smile, "Congratulations on Sister Yundong's wedding. This is my makeup gift. I hope you like it." The box was opened. There was a pearl necklace. The pearls were quite big. Gu Yundong smiled. "Thank you." Madame Yao did not leave. She sat opposite Gu Yundong and looked up at the makeup artist behind her. "Can you excuse us for a while? I have some private words to say to Sister Yundong." The makeup artist was stunned. She had been invited over by the Gu family from the county city, so she naturally knew about Madame Yao. Hearing her request, the makeup artist could not help but look down at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong nodded. Go out and eat something first. You've worked hard today. All right, then call me if you need anything, Miss Gu. The makeup artist tidied up the dressing table slightly and glanced at Madame Yao. With a trace of suspicion in her heart, she walked out of the room. Madame Yao's maidservant stood guard at the door, as if this was their territory. Gu Yundong found it funny. When she faced Madame Yao again, her eyes turned cold. Young Madame Peng, what do you have to say to me? Madame Yao glanced at Madame Yang. She knew that Madame Yang was not smart, so she did not care. In front of her, Madame Yao said bluntly, Miss Gus' wedding today is supposed to be something to be happy about. I'm just a little curious. Why didn't Miss Gu invite your cousin over to the wedding banquet? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:11. Gu Yundong's threat. Madame Yao really hated Gu Yundong. If not for her, Gu Xianxia would not have become Peng Zhongfei's concubine. Although Peng Zhongfei didn't like her, it was enough to disgust Madame Yao. Moreover, ever since that incident, Peng Zhongfei had been very impatient with her. Other than bringing her out on necessary occasions to give her some face, he almost never stepped into her room. She was not as useful as concubine Xia in the Peng residence these days. Madame Yao was so angry that she fought with concubine Xia. But deep in her heart, she hated Gu Yundong as much. Initially, she would have suppressed this hatred. After all, it was rare for her husband to bring her out. If she dared to cause trouble, her life would probably be even worse in the future. But today was Gu Yundong's wedding day. She looked extremely beautiful and blissful. Gu Yundong was so blissful that it hurt her eyes. In the end, Madame Yao couldn't suppress the resentment in her heart and wanted to cut a crack on such a big day. Hence, she deliberately mentioned Gu Xianxia as if she was trying to disgust Gu Yundong. However, Gu Yundong looked at her strangely. Gu Xianxia? She's not here anymore. Where can I invite her? Madame Yao smiled and said, so you still know that she's gone? Back then, you were the one who personally sent her to my husband as a concubine. Her life was very difficult. As her sister, you never thought of visiting her when you were living well. Even when she left, you didn't send her off. Sigh. Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows. What are you trying to say? If you don't hurry up, someone will come in later. Madame Yao was a little angry, but she quickly smiled. There's nothing to say. I'm just a little curious. Does your father know about this? Does he know that his biological niece was sent to another man's bed by his biological daughter? Does he know that his biological niece lost her life in this unfamiliar place? Does he know that no one collected his biological niece's corpse? Saying all this on Gu Yundong's wedding day was clearly to cause trouble. Seeing that she did not look good, Madame Yao immediately felt better. By the way, I heard that your father just became an elementary scholar. Do you think it will affect your father's career if news of this spreads, Madame Yang could not understand these words, but she could feel Madame Yao's malice. She immediately stepped up and stood in front of Gu Yundong. She frowned and said, What are you talking about? Our Dong Dong is very busy and doesn't have time to talk with you. If you're done, leave quickly. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Madame Yao glanced at her and sneered. She ignored her and only looked at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong pulled Madame Yang to the side and sat her down. After comforting her, she looked at Madame Yao. What do you plan to do? What do you think? Gu Yundong smiled and said, Do you want my father to think that I'm a ruthless daughter who doesn't care about her cousin? Or do you want to ruin my father's reputation? Madame Yao, you can try, but I promise that if you do this today, you will definitely be kicked out of the Peng family tomorrow and be abandoned. You will live a miserable life for the rest of your life. Madame Yao suddenly tightened her grip, wishing she could pounce on her and bite her. You make it sound like the Peng family will listen to you. Don't you think too highly of yourself? Even if my husband is on good terms with you, the old master and old madam of the Peng family won't allow him to divorce his wife and become enemies with my family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:12. The groom is here. As soon as Madame Yao finished speaking, Tong Shuitao's voice came from outside the door. Miss, the prefecture magistrate's wife, the prefecture magistrate's son, and Miss Nia are all here. Madame Yao froze. What did she just hear? The wife of the prefecture magistrate? The son of the prefecture magistrate? She looked at Gu Yundong in shock. Gu Yundong smiled and said, "Did you hear that? Do you still think that the Peng family will not divorce you? Or do you think that your maternal family will dare to bring you back after you are divorced?" Madame Yao suddenly stood up and looked at Gu Yundong in disbelief. That's impossible. Do you know the prefecture magistrate's wife? Why? She was just a little girl who had escaped from the famine. Even if she had some means and could earn some money, how could she know these influential people? Moreover, the prefecture magistrate's wife came to attend her wedding in person? Gu Yundong smiled. You have been in the residence for too long. She had been busy fighting with concubine Xia all day long and did not even know that the world outside had changed. How sad. Madame Ya did not believe it. She wanted to take a look personally. However, before she could turn around, Tong Shuitao had already led Madame Dai and Nie Shuang in. When Madame Yao's maidservant saw them, she did not dare to stop them and shrank to the side. As soon as Madame Dai entered, she held Gu Yundong's hand affectionately and said, "I'm late, I'm late. It's all Wenhuo's fault. He stayed in the county yesterday. When he woke up in the morning, he insisted on going to the wonton shop in the east of the city to eat wontons. He said that he had eaten once last time and even wanted to drag us along." Gu Yundong smiled and said, "It's not too late. It's not the auspicious time yet. I already told you to stay in my house yesterday, but you had to stay in the county city. How inconvenient. Don't. It's too troublesome for a bunch of people like us to stay in your house. It's fine to stay in an inn. Last time, I went to your house and walked around Yongfu village. I hadn't seen much of the county city yet, so I could take this time to stroll around. There were more than 3 people when Madame Dai and the others went out. There were also more than 10 maidservants, old women, guards, and coachmen." Nie Shuang nodded. That's right, that's right. The county city is quite fun." Madame Dai hurriedly brought her gifts over. She had given the bride a pair of jade bracelets. One look and everybody could tell that they were of very good quality. They must be very expensive. Nie Shuang had given the bride a hairpin. According to her, she had bought it when she went back to the capital last time. She had liked it at first glance and felt that it was especially compatible with Gu Yundong. She had brought it back and was waiting to use it today. She also brought a pair of earrings that Miss Bao had given her. Miss Bao had something to do at home, so she did not attend her marriage. The room was filled with laughter. It was obvious that they were very close. Madame Yao, who had already retreated to a corner, felt her entire body turn cold. She had seen Madame Dai before. It was definitely Madame Dai. There was also Miss Nie. In the prefecture capital's Nie residence, she was someone the Peng family did not dare to reach. They actually had such a good relationship with Gu Yundong? How was that possible? If Gu Yundong's backer was them, then the Peng family might really abandon her. Gu Yundong took the time to glance at Madame Yao. Madame Yao's expression changed drastically and she suddenly lowered her head. Gu Yundong knew that she would not dare to cause trouble again. Madame Dai was a meticulous person. She also looked at Madame Yao, but she did not say anything. Instead, she spoke patiently to Madame Yang. At this moment, there was the commotion of the groom coming to pick up the bride. "The groom is here. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 12:13. blocking the door with a splash. Many people rushed in. Eldest Aunt Gu asked Gu Yundong to quickly cover her head. She sat by the bed and waited quietly. Madame Dai, Nie Shuang, and the others also walked out of the room. Madame Yao also took advantage of the chaos to go out. She didn't dare to have any other thoughts. She went out to look for Peng Zhongfei, but she didn't expect to hear that Peng Zhongfei had gone to the Xiao family. She immediately felt choked in her heart and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She wanted to leave the Gu family, but the door was already closed. There was a group of people blocking the door. There were 3 small stools with 3 people sitting on them. Yunshu, Yunke, and Yuanji sat facing the door like vanguards. Behind them stood the Zheng siblings, Niu Dan and Lu Dan, as well as Lu Yi, Qin Anning, Lu Hongxiao, and the other children. The people who came to watch the show were stunned. They did not expect that the people blocking the door were all children. This made Gu Xiaoxi, Qin Shu, Nie Shuang, Shen Sitian, and the others, who had originally planned to stop them, retreat to the back. The corners of their mouths twitched as they looked at this group of children. The onlookers laughed out loud. The entire courtyard was bustling with activity. Madame Dai watched from afar and could not help but say to Aunt Ku, "Can the children block it?" With those children around, the people outside won't dare to push the door open. Madame Dai raised her eyebrows. That was true. As she was thinking, a loud shout came from outside the door. "The groom is here to pick up the bride. Open the door." Upon hearing this energetic voice, everybody knew that it was Lu Wei. Yunshu, who was sitting in the middle of the stools, stood up from the small stool. With his hands on his hips, he shouted outside the door, "If you want to marry my sister, you have to pass my tests first." "Yes, yes, yes, pass the tests first." The children's tender voices followed. Lu Wei, who was outside the door, laughed. He moved closer to the nervous Xiao Qingyuan and said, "Don't worry. I've already asked Lu Yi to inquire about the tests from Yunshu. It's just poetry and poking and such. You have Brother Dai and me by your side. We can help you through." With that, he shouted at the door, "All right, then set the questions. All right, listen up." Yunshu patted his new clothes and coughed lightly. He raised his chin slightly and made a very handsome posture for himself before saying, "May I ask why a shop assistant's son has never called him father?" Everyone was speechless. "Huh?" Xiao Qingyuan slowly turned his head and looked at Lu Wei, who was eager to answer but turned stiff because of the unexpected question. "Poetry and poking?" Lu Wei slowly closed his chin and laughed dryly. "I was deceived by that brat Lu Yi. That spy. Hee hee, hee hee." Dai Wenhua couldn't help but roll his eyes and say, "Think of the answer first." Lu Wei nodded. "Yes, yes, yes. Think about the answer first." Then, he shouted at Xiao Wen, Xiao Wu, Xiao Shuang, Xiao Quan, the 2 Tao brothers, Peng Zhongfei, and a large group of villagers who had come to watch the show. "Everyone, help think about it." Not only them, but even the people behind the door were lowering their heads to think of the answer. What was going on? Why didn't his son call him father? "I got it." Lu Wei shouted from outside the door. "Because the shop assistant doesn't treat his son well. His son hates him and refuses to call him father. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 12-14, Brainstorm. No, no. Yunshu shook his head. Next. Dai Wenhua frowned and guessed, could it be because this child was adopted by the shop assistant? He hasn't had the time to change his words. That's not right either. Peng Zhongfei immediately shouted, "I know. It must be because this shop assistant was cheated on by his wife. This son belongs to old Wang next door." Everyone was speechless. Xiao Qingyuan, Lu Wei, Dai Wenhua, and the others silently turned to look at Peng Zhongfei. They had the urge to beat him up. Lu Wei even reached out and pointed at him. "Are you stupid? How could a child like him come up with such a question? Peng Zhongfei was unconvinced. Do you dare to say that you didn't have such thoughts just now? Anyway, this was the first answer that came to his mind after he heard the question. Lu Wei and the others fell silent. To be honest, they also felt that this was the standard answer. However, Yin Shu snorted again. That's not right. None of them were right. Everyone could only lower their heads and start thinking hard. Xiao Qingyuan's fingers moved slightly, and he suddenly smiled. Lu Wei's eyes were sharp. He immediately asked, "Did you think of it?" "Yes." Xiao Qingyuan nodded and took a step forward. He didn't have a loud voice like Lu Wei, but when he spoke, his voice was powerful. Because the shop assistant is a female. Her son naturally can't call her father. Everyone was stunned for a moment before clapping. That's right, why didn't they think of it? Wasn't there a few female workers in Gu Yundong's milk tea shop? Even Madame Dai and Nie Shuang had enlightened expressions. To think that they were the owners of the milk tea shop. They did not think of such a simple answer. Yin Shu was slightly satisfied. Yes, you got the first question right. The people outside the gate instantly became excited. Very good, very good. The first battle had been won, and everything would definitely be smooth sailing in the future. Everyone was full of confidence as they waited for the second question. The second question was set by Yuanji. May I ask, Daniel looks ordinary and there's nothing special about him, but he wouldn't blink for hours. How does he do it? Everyone was speechless. Where did you guys find these strange questions? How are you going to answer them? Lu Wei racked his brains for a moment and said, I understand. Daniel has an eye disease. That's not right. Dai Wenhua said, Daniel is holding his eyelids with small wooden sticks. That's not right either. Peng Zhongfei said, Daniel died with his eyes open. Everyone was speechless. What did you say? Do you dare to say it again? Lu Wei turned around and dragged Peng Zhongfei away. This is a wedding, and you're talking about cheating and dying. You probably have a grudge against bride and bridegroom, right? Peng Zhongfei felt wronged. All of you are sanctimonious. Could it be that you don't think so? I don't believe it. After Lu Wei dealt with Peng Zhongfei, he returned very quickly. He looked at Xiao Qingyuan and asked, Have you thought of it? Lu Wei felt that Gu Yundong must have come up with these strange questions. She was the only one who seemed abnormal. And Xiao Qingyuan had been with Gu Yundong for so long. Surely he could understand her? As expected, Xiao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes and relaxed. Because Daniel has his eyes closed. Xiao Qingyuan referred to the previous question and felt that it couldn't be deduced with common sense. He quickly thought of it. As expected, Yuanzi's voice came from inside. Yes, you're right. The people outside the door instantly cheered. That's great. There was only one question left. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:15, Something's Not Right. The last one was naturally from Kiki. The little girl stood up from the stool and put her hands behind her back like a little adult. She said in a childish voice, May I ask why wooden fish can't be eaten? Huh? What kind of question was that? Dai Wenhua frowned. Isn't wooden fish inedible to begin with? Lu Wei waved his hand. Don't be hasty. Their questions are all strange. There must be other meanings. Let's find the answer word by word. The others nodded and began to think hard. Yin Shu and Yuanji, who were behind the door, were also stunned for a moment. They looked at each other. Yin Shu said softly, Why did Kiki tell them the answer? I think she got the question wrong. She should be asking them what fish they can't eat. The two of them, what should they do now? They looked at Kiki. She looked very confident and happy. After a while, she even skipped over to Yin Shu. Second brother, I'm so happy. I can be a female teacher for once. Wasn't the question I asked just now especially good? Yunshu's face instantly turned serious. He patted the little girl's head and nodded firmly. Yes, Kiki is especially good. That question just now was very good. Yuanji also nodded. Look, there's no movement outside. Everyone is stumped by you. The little girl was even happier. She patted her small chest. That's right. Your questions are too simple. Sure enough, you still have to rely on me. The two brothers nodded vigorously. After the little girl turned her head, they whispered, what should we do? If cousin-in-law can't answer, my cousin won't be able to get married. This. It's fine. My brother-in-law will definitely think of a way. That being said, there was no sound coming from outside. They were very anxious. Lu Wei, who was at the door, was also anxious. He asked Xiao Qingyuan in a low voice, have you thought of it? Xiao Qingyuan frowned. I don't think this question is right. Damn, none of the 3 questions they came up with were right? Xiao Qingyuan still felt that something was wrong. It was getting late, and he really couldn't find the direction. After a pause, he could only carry out Plan B. He gave Dai Wenhua a look. The latter immediately walked to the side and looked at the high wall in front of him. Although the wall was quite high, it was not a problem for him. Therefore, he jumped up and stepped on the wall to climb up. On the other side of the door, Lu Wei also stuck out his butt and said through the gap in the door, Kiki, we really can't think of anything. How about this? How about we give you red packets? Kiki was about to shake her head. They had already figured out the answers to the questions, so they had to think of her questions. However, when the villagers in the courtyard heard about the red packet, they seemed to be on steroids and shouted, hurry, hurry, hurry. If you can't figure out the answer, give us the red packets. Seeing that Kiki was unhappy, Yunshu quickly rushed forward and whispered to her, your questions are too difficult. Let's let them compensate us with red packets. If it's too late, we'll miss the auspicious time. The little girl pouted and hesitated for a long time before nodding. All right. Lu Wei immediately became happy. He reached out and took red packets from the cloth bag he carried with him and stuffed them through the gap of the door one by one. A group of children ran to the door and snatched them. Even some thick-skinned adults squeezed over and instantly pushed the children to the side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:16, Yundong, are you willing to marry me? When Xiao Qingyuan heard the commotion, he frowned and looked up at the wall. Dai Wenhua also had a cloth bag hanging from his waist. He grabbed a handful of red packets from it and scattered them in the courtyard. Let's grab the red packets here. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw the rain of red packets falling. Compared to snatching red packets from under the door, of course, there were more scattered in the courtyard. The crowd dispersed. The adults had gone to the courtyard. Even the children had gone. Lu Wei chuckled and said to Kiki and the others at the door, don't worry, I'm giving you big red packets. Those are not even as big as yours. Hurry up and put them away. Kiki's eyes lit up. She hurriedly nodded and placed the red packets into her small bag. Then, she waved her small hand domineeringly and said to her brother, all right, open the door. Let them in. Yunshu and Yuanji were speechless. Aren't you two easily bribed? However, she was not the only one who was bribed. Soon, 2 adults ran over and removed the bolt. Then, they carried the 3 children and stood to the side. As soon as the door opened, the people outside instantly rushed in. Yunshu and Yuanji were dumbfounded. Could it be like this? Xiao Qingyuan walked in elegantly in a red wedding suit. His usually indifferent face was filled with joy, and there was a smile at the corners of his eyes. As soon as he entered, he reached out and rubbed the children's heads. He took out 3 big red packets from his sleeve and placed them in their hands. After the 3 children accepted the red packets, Xiao Qingyuan strode towards the new house. The sound of firecrackers could be heard outside the door. Along the way, someone shouted, "The groom is here. Hurry up, the groom is here." Gu Yundong, who had been sitting in the room and listening to the commotion outside, suddenly felt her heart beating rapidly. Her fingers subconsciously tightened around the wedding dress. Gu Dafeng quickly reached out to pull her and said softly, "Calm down." She couldn't calm down. Xiao Qingyuan entered and saw the person sitting on the edge of the bed. She was wearing a bright red wedding dress and had a red veil over her head. She sat there obediently like a painting. Xiao Qingyuan's throat instantly became dry. He swallowed hard before slowly taking a step forward. Many people in the room were talking. There were Madame Yang's eldest aunt Gus, the bridesmaids, and others who followed in and asked for red packets. Xiao Qingyuan did not seem to hear these voices. He walked towards Gu Yundong step by step. When he reached the front, he suddenly squatted down. The room instantly fell silent as everyone turned to look at them. After a while, Xiao Qingyuan asked in a low voice, "Yundong, I'm here to marry you today because I love you. In the future, I'll definitely treat you wholeheartedly and have no second thoughts. You'll be the only one in my life. No matter what happens in the future, I'll share blessings and difficulties with you. I won't leave you. From now on, you'll be in charge of the family. You'll control the family assets. When we have children, we'll educate them together. In that case, are you willing to marry me?" Everyone looked at him in shock. This matter was already set in stone, but Xiao Qingyuan still made such an oath. Everyone present was shocked. Gu Yundong did not expect him to say such words. Her eyes turned hot. After a while, she nodded slowly. Xiao Qingyuan's nervousness was instantly appeased. The smile on his face widened before he stood up. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 12:17. Entering the bridal chamber, Gu Yundong was helped up by the bridesmaid and Tong Shui Tao and left the house. When the group arrived at the central room, Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang were already sitting in the middle. Gu Yundong couldn't see their expressions, but she knew that Gu Dajiang must be filled with reluctance. "Yundong." Gu Dajiang stood up and walked in front of her. He looked at his daughter and instantly choked. In the end, he still couldn't bear to part with her. Even though the place she was going to was just next door, it was still different. Gu Dafeng patted him. Gu Dajiang took a deep breath and gritted his teeth. "From now on, you're the daughter-in-law of the Xiao family. You're Qingyuan's wife. If you suffer, come back. I'll stand up for you." Gu Dafeng tugged at him. "What are you talking about?" Gu Dajiang paused and took another breath before continuing. "Qingyuan is a good person. He's quite good. He's good at both liberal and martial arts and is decisive in his actions. Father hopes that the two of you will be harmonious in the future. You will love and respect each other. You have to be considerate when you encounter things. You'll grow old together, understand?" Gu Yundong's eyes stung even more. After a while, she hummed softly. "Father, I know." Gu Dajiang looked at Xiao Qingyuan. "I'll give my daughter to you. Father, don't worry. I'll take good care of Yundong and not let her suffer. I'll dote on her and love her." Gu Dajiang exhaled and looked at Madame Yang. Madame Yang held Gu Yundong's hand tightly, as if she finally realized that Yundong was getting married. Tears streamed down her face. "Dong Dong, don't go." Gu Dajiang held back his reluctance and helped Madame Yang back slightly. Then, he waved his hand. "All right, don't miss the auspicious time." The bridesmaid hurriedly led Gu Yundong out and urged the bridal sedan chair to get ready. Gu Yundong walked a few steps and turned around. Hearing Madame Yang's cries, she could not move her feet. The bridesmaid began to urge her a second time and finally helped her out of the central room. Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang chased after them for a few steps. The firecrackers outside were even louder, and the guests' voices were lively. Seeing Gu Yundong get into the bridal sedan, Gu Dajiang finally couldn't help but turn around and return to his room. Madame Yang was stunned and hurriedly followed. The moment she pushed open the door, she saw Gu Dajiang wiping his eyes with a handkerchief. His eyes were red. Seeing Madame Yang enter, he forced a smile and said, "I'm fine. The wind was a little strong just now and there was sand in my eyes." Madame Yang didn't know if she believed him or not. She took the handkerchief from his hand and wiped it for him. Gu Yundong sat in the sedan chair with her head slightly lowered, but her mind kept replaying her parents' sobbing voices. Like Gu Xiaoxi's wedding, the sedan chair walked around the village and finally stopped in front of the Xiao family's house. The bridesmaid helped the bride out of the sedan chair, stepped over the brazier, and walked on the red felt. Finally, she stood on the right side of the wedding hall. Xiao Qingyuan stood on the left, holding the red silk in his hand. He and Gu Yundong held it on both sides. When no one was paying attention, Xiao Qingyuan gently squeezed Gu Yundong's hand. Gu Yundong wanted to glare at him, but there was a red veil in front of her face. Suddenly, she heard the host's voice. "One bow to heaven and earth." The bridesmaid supported her and guided her to turn around. Second bow to the parents. Xiao Qingyuan's parents weren't around either, so they continued to bow outside. Third bow to each other. Send them to the bridal chamber. As soon as the host finished speaking, Xiao Qingyuan couldn't stop smiling. His palms that were holding the red silk were covered in sweat. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:18, Consummation Wine. After entering the new room, Gu Yundong was led to the wedding bed. She heard the shouts of the crowd. "The veil is to be removed." The groom quickly removed the veil. A scale was immediately stuffed into Xiao Qingyuan's hand. He grabbed the scale and was extremely nervous. The bridesmaids' congratulations and urging sounded in his ears. Someone pushed him. Xiao Qingyuan suddenly took a step forward and stood in front of Gu Yundong. He slowly took a deep breath and placed the scale under her veil. After a while, he gently pulled it away. Gu Yundong looked up. At that moment, Xiao Qingyuan felt that his breathing had stopped. Someone beside him exclaimed, "Wow, the bride is so beautiful." Yes, she was so beautiful. Xiao Qingyuan had never seen such a beautiful Gu Yundong. He felt that his throat was extremely dry and itchy. When the people standing in the room saw this, they could not help but cover their mouths and laugh. The bridesmaid even pulled him and asked him to sit with Gu Yundong. Xiao Qingyuan looked at her intently until there was a glass of wine in his hand. Gu Yundong laughed. Why did he become so silly? "This is consummation wine," the bridesmaid said with a smile. "Drink this consummation wine and wish the bride and groom a long and happy marriage." Xiao Qingyuan suddenly came back to his senses and looked at the wine in his glass. The corners of his lips curled up. Gu Yundong's arms circled around his. The two of them looked up and finished the wine in their glasses. "All right. May the bride and groom live happily ever after. Unity of heart, and a life of harmony." The blessings came one after another. There were so many people in the room that it was impossible to tell who had said it. Dai Wenhua was smart. The cloth bag hanging on his waist was still there. He would give a red packet to anyone who said anything. For a moment, the atmosphere in the room became even more enthusiastic. Xiao Qingyuan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to say a few words to Gu Yundong, he did not expect Lu Wei to suddenly pull him up. All right. They've already drunk the cross-cupped wine. Let's go outside and drink." Xiao Qingyuan only had time to glance at Gu Yundong before he was pulled out by Lu Wei. As the two houses were close and the people invited knew each other, the courtyard was filled with tables, be it the Gu family or the Xiao family. Almost all the villagers of Yongfu village were here. Everyone was already eating at the table. Xiao Qingyuan was brought to the main table by Lu Wei, who forced him to eat 2 mouthfuls of food before toasting him. He had already planned this. When Gu Xiaoxi got married. Because Qian was pregnant, it was not good to get him too drunk. However, it was different now. Gu Yundong was healthy and had high martial arts skills. It did not matter even if Xiao Qingyuan was drunk. Gu Yundong would definitely be able to handle it. Lu Wei expressed that he was fearless. He waved at Xiao Wen. Bring me a jar of wine. All right. Xiao Wen turned around excitedly. After a while, he and Xiao Wu each brought back a jar of wine. Lu Wei chuckled at Xiao Qingyuan. Come, 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 fill your young master's cup. Xiao Wen took a bowl and filled it up. Lu Wei stood in front of Xiao Qingyuan, who looked at him coldly. Lu Wei was not afraid. Today is your big day. It's fine if you didn't give me face in the past, but if you don't drink today, it's equivalent to not giving your wife face. Isn't that right, everyone? With someone taking the lead, the others cheered on the spot. That's right. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:19. He didn't dare to try. Xiao Qingyuan glanced at the bowl of wine and looked at Lu Wei meaningfully. You won't regret it? I won't regret it. Lu Wei shook his head. Although he was anxious, it didn't matter. It was worth it even if Xiao Qingyuan got even with him later. Xiao Qingyuan nodded, took the bowl of wine, and drank it. Good. The crowd cheered. Lu Wei laughed out loud and got Xiao Wen to fill it up again. Dai Wenhua, who was at the side, looked at the bowl of wine thoughtfully. He paused and suddenly sniffed the jar of wine when Xiao Wen was not paying attention. Xiao Wen was shocked and immediately took 2 steps back. Then, he looked at Dai Wenhua with a dry smile and pretended that nothing had happened. Dai Wenhua smiled. Yes, it smelled like alcohol, but it was very faint. There were other smells mixed in. He thought of Xiao Qingyuan's identity as a medical expert and immediately understood. After he drank the second bowl of wine, Dai Wenhua leaned towards Xiao Qingyuan under Xiao Wen's apprehensive gaze and whispered, You can't do that. This isn't wine, right? Xiao Qingyuan glanced at him from the corner of his eye. He didn't feel guilty or flustered at all after being exposed. He also said softly, I rarely drink. My alcohol tolerance is too low, and I get drunk easily. If I get drunk, wouldn't it be bad if I spout nonsense and say something I shouldn't say? Dai Wenhua was speechless. This was a threat. That's right. Xiao Qingyuan knew many secrets, such as the Tao family's matter, the Zhang family's matter, and his and Qin Wenzheng's motive for entering the deep mountains. If these were to be spread, the consequences would be unimaginable. All their efforts would be in vain. Dai Wenhua couldn't help but grind his teeth. He didn't believe that Xiao Qingyuan's alcohol tolerance was bad, but he didn't dare to take chances. After taking a deep breath, Dai Wenhua smiled again. That's good. You have the foresight. Thank you for the compliment. Xiao Qingyuan nodded and drank the third bowl of wine. Dai Wenhua found it strange that this thing could make people blush after drinking it. It was amazing. Lu Wei didn't notice anything wrong at all. Xiao Wu was pouring wine for the other guests, so his jar of wine was naturally real. There were a lot of people and it was noisy. In the bridal chamber, Gu Yundong could hear Lu Wei's loud voice. She was holding a bowl of boiled eggs with brown sugar. Dong Xilan had brought it to her just now. There were only her, Dong Xilan, and Tong Shuitao in the room. Gu Yundong ate very slowly. There were too many things on her head and they were very heavy. She wanted to take them down, but Dong Xilan stopped her. Take your time. Eat some rice to fill your stomach after you're done. I don't know when the commotion outside will end. Thank you, Auntie. What are you thanking me for? Dong Xilan looked at her lovingly. It's my greatest wish to see you and Qingyuan get married and grow old hand in hand. As she spoke, she was a little sad. In the past, I was always worried that Qin Yuan would be alone for the rest of his life. He would grow old alone and not even have a companion. Until he met you. You didn't care about his bad reputation or his unlikable personality. You accompanied him to open a shop and build a house. I was so happy to see the two of you getting together. She patted Gu Yundong's hand. Don't worry. I know Qin Yuan. He's a good child. You stayed by his side when he had nothing. No matter how promising he is in the future, he will dote on you and love you. He won't let you down. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:20. Feed me. Gu Yundong finished the last of her sugar water and smiled. I know, Auntie. It's precisely because he's very, very good that I agreed to marry him. Yes, Qin Yuan was very, very good. He had given her everything. He could put his life in her hands. It was actually not easy to meet such a person in this life. After the brown sugar egg was finished and the meal was over, Dong Xilan tidied everything up and asked Tong Shui Tao to help Gu Yundong sit on the bed again. She carried the bowl and chopsticks out. As soon as she went out, she saw that there was still a commotion over there. After Qin Yuan walked around toasting, he looked a little delirious. Lu Wei went to help him up, and Qin Yuan almost pressed him to the ground. The group of people hurriedly helped him up. Seeing this, Dong Xilan hurriedly squeezed over. All right. Don't you see how drunk he is? Enough. Today is a big day. Are you really not going to let him consummate his wedding? That was what Lu Wei thought. Just as he was about to retort, he suddenly heard Xiao Quan say softly from behind, Young Master Lu, the medical book says that if people drink too much, they will be poisoned. Lu Wei was shocked. Are you serious? Yes. Xiao Quan nodded seriously and sincerely. If our young master is poisoned, then, Gu Yundong's furious face flashed across Lu Wei's mind. He shuddered violently and hurriedly said, Yes. After all, it's your wedding night. We're good brothers. We can't let him have a bad time, right? After that, Lu Wei and Dai Wenhua helped Qin Yuan back to his chamber. Gu Yundong looked at the drunk Qin Yuan in surprise. Before she looked at him, Lu Wei quickly said, He drank a little too much. Take care of him. Well, leave first. We won't disturb you. With that, he quickly left with Dai Wenhua. Dai Wenhua looked at him in amusement. Why do I feel that you're more afraid of Gu Yundong? Lu Wei looked like he was ignorant. If I offended Qin Yuan, at most, he would beat me up. If I offend Gu Yundong, she will plot against me. Dai Wenhua was enlightened. So you dare to force Qin Yuan to drink, but you don't dare to disturb Gu Yundong's bridal chamber? It was good that everyone knew this in their hearts. There was no need to say it out loud, right? Lu Wei looked back and ran away quickly. In the chamber, Gu Yundong had just supported Qin Yuan when she saw him slowly sit up straight and hold her hand. Gu Yundong was stunned. She pursed her lips and smiled. I was wondering how you got drunk by Lu Wei. So you were lying to him. He wanted to ruin my wedding night. How can I let him have his way? Qin Yuan lowered his head, grabbed her hand, and kissed it. He asked in a low voice, Have you eaten? Yes, Auntie Dong just sent some food over. As for you, you didn't eat much, right? I had no choice but to drink, Qin Yuan said as he took off the hair accessory on her head and placed it on the table. Gu Yundong finally felt much more relaxed. She rubbed her neck slightly and handed the pastries on the table to Qin Yuan. Eat some first. Feed me. Gu Yundong blushed. However, she fed him the pastries in the end. Qin Yuan looked at her as he ate. It's delicious. Then eat more. Gu Yundong felt uncomfortable under his gaze. She got up and went to get another pastry plate. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:21, Wedding Night. Unexpectedly, just as he stood up, his hand was grabbed and his body was gently pulled back. Gu Yundong was caught off guard and took 2 steps back before sitting on Xiao Qingyuan. A pair of hands appeared at her waist. Before Gu Yundong could react, she was pressed onto the bed. She could hear his hot and rapid breathing. But I want to eat you. Gu Yundong turned her head slightly and a shadow fell on top of her. She felt a warm touch on her lips. Gu Yundong did not know when Xiao Qingyuan stopped. In a daze, she seemed to hear him call for water. Then, she fell asleep again. She seemed to have woken up several times. Every time, she was in his arms and he hugged her tightly. At dawn, Xiao Qingyuan opened his eyes. Even though he did not sleep much that night, when he woke up, he was still in high spirits and extremely satisfied. Looking at his wife sleeping soundly in his arms, Xiao Qingyuan couldn't suppress the smile on his face. He couldn't help but hug her tighter until she moaned softly before he let go. He hugged her for a while more before planting a kiss on her forehead. Then, he slowly let go of her and got out of bed silently. The sky was already bright outside. The entire courtyard of the Xiao family was quiet. Last night, before everyone left, they must have cleaned up. The tables were very neatly placed. Xiao Qingyuan put on a shirt and went straight to the kitchen. There was no one in the Xiao family today. Whether it was Xiao Wen and the others or Auntie Lu, they all went to the Gu family to rest. There were only him and Gu Yundong in the entire Xiao house. This was what Xiao Qingyuan had specially instructed. It was the first day of their marriage, and he did not want anyone to disturb them. There were still leftovers from yesterday in the kitchen. Xiao Qingyuan's culinary skills were not good, but he had also learned from Auntie Lu recently. One could get too occupied when cooking and burn half the kitchen down. But what about using a casserole? As a medicinal herb merchant and a doctor, Xiao Qingyuan knew how to brew medicine. Therefore, he directly placed the casserole over the charcoal fire and it was immediately convenient. On the first day of their marriage, he wanted to cook a pot of porridge for his wife. In the past, she had always made delicious food for him. Now, he wanted her to enjoy it. Xiao Qingyuan lit the fire, washed the rice, and added water. When the clay pot began to bubble, his tense body finally relaxed. The porridge was mixed with mushrooms, lean meat, yams, and other things. Xiao Qingyuan felt that it was quite fragrant and took a bite. Only then did he bring a big porcelain bowl over and pour the porridge in. Then, she placed it on the tray and carefully carried it into the room. Gu Yundong was still sleeping. She was so tired that she was curled up in the blanket. Xiao Qingyuan walked to the edge of the bed, took off his shoes, and lay down. He hugged her gently from behind and looked at her face quietly, as if he could never get enough of her. Now, he had a wife and family. When he woke up this morning and saw her lying beside him, Xiao Qingyuan felt unprecedented satisfaction. The body in his arms moved. Seeing that it was about time and the porridge was already cool, Xiao Qingyuan lowered his head and kissed her. He said softly, "Get up and eat something first. Your stomach is starting to growl, okay?" Gu Yundong opened her eyes slightly, still in a daze. Xiao Qingyuan couldn't help but kiss her again. "I made porridge. Do you want to try it? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 12:22, Warm Two-Person World. Gu Yundong was shocked and immediately sobered up. She blinked in a daze, as if she wanted to confirm if the person in front of him was serious. Xiao Qingyuan was tempted and kissed her again. "Are you getting up?" Gu Yundong nodded. Just as she was about to get up, she realized that she was only wearing her lingerie. She immediately blushed and slid back under the blanket. The crazy thing that happened last night suddenly flashed across her mind. For a moment, she didn't know how to face him. The soreness in her body belatedly surged, making her glare at Xiao Qingyuan unhappily. She had clearly said stop, but he still refused. He was simply a beast. However, Xiao Qingyuan felt as if she was winking at him. He was already a ball of fire when he woke up in the morning, so how could he restrain himself now? He immediately lowered the curtain and pounced on her. Gu Yundong was speechless. When the two of them got up again, the pot of porridge was completely cold. Gu Yundong lay motionless on the bed and did not want to talk to Xiao Qingyuan. The latter touched his nose and knew that he was in the wrong. He said softly, "I'll heat it up, all right?" Humph. Xiao Qingyuan carried the pot of porridge to the kitchen again. Gu Yundong lay on his back and looked at the bed curtains. She still felt a little surreal. She was really married to the man she loved. From now on, she would live with him and face all the suffering and happiness. Although this person was a little beastly in some aspects, Gu Yundong was still very happy. Xiao Qingyuan brought the pot of porridge back in a hurry. After it was heated up, it was unknown if it was because his skills were not good, but the porridge was a little burnt. Xiao Qingyuan frowned and sighed. Forget it. I'll go find Auntie Lu. He was about to leave when Gu Yundong quickly stopped him. No need. It smells good. Give me a bowl. Xiao Qingyuan looked conflicted. It smelled burnt. How was it good? However, he still obediently scooped a bowlful and placed it in front of her. Gu Yundong sat in front of the table. Her hands were still weak. Xiao Qingyuan immediately blew on the porridge and fed her. How is it? It tastes all right. Gu Yundong took a sip. It was actually quite delicious. Although it smelled burnt, as long as the bottom layer was not eaten, the other parts were quite fragrant. Xiao Qingyuan heaved a sigh of relief. He sat closer to her and fed her bit by bit with a spoon. There were only the two of them in the entire Xiao family. Everything was very quiet and carefree. After lunch, it was already past noon. The two of them leaned against each other under the grape trellis and read for a while. Xiao Qingyuan was holding a medical book, while Gu Yundong was holding a storybook. Occasionally, the voices of the villagers could be heard from next door. Now, the area beside the Xiao family was no longer empty. On the right was the Zheng family, and on the left was a family who had built a house not long ago. At this moment, the woman in this family was scolding her son, who was playing everywhere. Gu Yundong found it interesting and could not help but narrow her eyes. Xiao Qingyuan lowered his eyes and kissed the corner of her mouth. The two of them wandered for the entire afternoon. At night, Gu Yundong cooked noodles. Xiao Qingyuan was especially satisfied. At night, he was full of energy and wanted to pull Gu Yundong along. However, on account of her first taste of human affairs and the fact that she was returning home tomorrow, he decided to rest early. The next morning, Gu Yundong was indeed much more energetic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1223. We're going to the capital too. The Xiao family and the Gu family were only a few steps apart, so after the two of them got up and tidied up, they knocked on the Gu family's door not long after. Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang had been waiting for a long time. When they saw Gu Yundong, their eyes couldn't help but sting. Although she had only been married for a day, it was still very uncomfortable to suddenly have one less person in the family. The children, in particular, pulled her along and started chatting. Gu Yundong was dragged away by her younger siblings while Xiao Qingyuan chatted with his father-in-law and the rest. The atmosphere was rather harmonious. Madame Dai, Nye Shuang, and the others had left Fengkai County a day earlier. Lu Wei and the others had also returned to the county. The rest were all family. During lunch, Qin Shu came over. He had gone to the county city to buy things yesterday. Previously, he had been a spy for Qin Wenzheng and had received some rewards. He had money in his hands. He had to make a trip back to Qinnan village after buying the gifts. He would leave today. When passing by Yongfu village, he came to Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan to bid farewell. Qin Shu was very reluctant. I'm going to the capital after I'm done with the village chief and the others. From now on, I'll work for Mr. Qian. I don't know when I'll see you guys again. Gu Yundong smiled. We should be able to meet soon. Huh? Qin Shu did not understand. Gu Yundong said, we'll be going to the capital in a few days. Really? Qin Shu was elated. Gu Yundong nodded, but the others looked reluctant. They had already told everyone about their decision to go to the capital. Everyone knew that he was going to the capital to find Xiaoqi Yuan's biological parents. This was something that had to be done, so no one stopped them. However, everybody did not know when they would return. Qin Shu received the news he wanted and left happily. There was a carriage waiting at the entrance of the village. The coachman was Qin Wenzheng's man who specially sent him back. After Gu Yundong sent him off, she returned to prepare for her trip to the capital. The main reason was that there were many things to do at home, especially in the industry. For this reason, Gu Yundong specially called the few people in charge for a meeting. The location was Xiaoqi Yuan's house. The workshop was now on the right track, and Gu Yundong had given Tong in full authority. In addition to him, there were 4 other junior managers. One of them was Jianghu. From white sugar to canned fruits to sweets, they each had their own areas of responsibility. Everything was in order. Then, there was the orchard. Zhao Zhu and his son, Gaosheng, were in charge of the orchard. Gaosheng's original name was Zhao Jingyong, and the father and son were now taking care of the orchard. Now that the orchard was huge, Zhao Zhu had already given Zhao Jingyong a portion of his power. His son slowly learned how to manage it. Immediately after that was the county shop, which was managed by Chen Jinkai. Finally, there were the people in charge of acquisition and delivery, Big Qian, Chen Jinbao, and Tong Ping. The 11 of them sat in the study, feeling a little excited and nervous. They had never experienced such a scene before. Everyone was gathered together, for a meeting. Gu Yundong sat in front of the desk and told them about her trip to the capital. Everyone below was stunned. Boss is going to the capital? How long will you be gone for? Gu Yundong naturally would not say that she was going to look for Xiaoqi Yuan's parents. I'm not sure how long they'll be gone. Previously, the eldest daughter of the Nia family bought a shop in the capital and planned to bring the milk tea to the capital. I want to take a look and open the shop. Besides, I also want to see the environment in the capital. Perhaps I can open a Gus in the capital. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1224, Meeting Opening Gus in the Capital. Everyone was overjoyed. Excitement flashed across their faces. Our Gus is arriving in the capital so quickly. That's great. It's the capital. By then, Gus' reputation will become more and more famous. Boss, what can we do for you? That's right, that's right. Boss, are we going to the capital too? Gu Yundong waved her hand to calm them down. We're still preparing for the opening of the shop in the capital. How can it be so easy to open a shop? However, the matters in the county can't be relaxed just because I'm not around. That's why I summoned you here today to discuss your mission after I go to the capital. Everyone fell silent and immediately sat up straight. Gu Yundong looked at Tong and, I'll leave the workshop to you. If there's anything you can't resolve, you can look for the village chief. In Yongfu village, Uncle Chen's words carry a lot of weight. If you really can't resolve the problem, get someone to send a letter to my father. He will have a way. Tong nodded solemnly. Yes, Mississippi. He said in an exceptionally serious tone, Tong will definitely not let Miss down. Gu Yundong then said to the 4 junior managers, each of you is responsible for a job, so you have a huge responsibility. For food producers, the most important thing is to be clean. I don't want the workshop to be dirty and messy, and I don't want to follow in the footsteps of the Zhang family. Boss, don't worry. We won't do anything heartless. Gu Yundong nodded and then looked at Zhao Zhu and his son. I'll leave the orchard to you. There are many fruit trees planted this year. You can recruit more people when picking the fruits. Don't let the fruits rot in the ground. Alright, boss. Gu Yundong did not know much about the orchard, so she wouldn't point fingers. She trusted Zhao Zhu. Next was the matter in the county city's Gus shop. She looked at Chen Jinkai. The business of the shop is getting better and better now, but there are no lack of blind people looking for trouble. If it can be resolved, it can be resolved. If it can't be resolved, you can ask Uncle Lu for help. Yes, boss. Finally, it was time for purchase and delivery. Gu Yundong looked at Big Qian. You're already familiar with those fruit farmers, and you're also flexible. I'm not worried about this. I'm just worried that some people will raise the price on the spot when they see that business is good. Although you've already signed the contract, you can't guarantee that you'll be 100% assured. You should have a bottom line in your heart. If they cross the line, you'd rather not buy those fruits. Big Qian agreed. Don't worry, boss. We have our own orchard now. Those people will suffer if they destroy the contract. I'll pay attention. That's good. Finally, it's time for delivery. Gu Yundong said to Chen Jinbao and Tong Ping, the products produced by our Gu family have always been scarce and eye-catching. You're quite familiar with the route. But just because it has been peaceful doesn't mean that it'll be fine later. Be careful on the way. The two of them immediately nodded. In fact, they had heard some rumors before that someone was recruiting people to intercept the goods on the way. However, they had also hired people from the escort agency to follow them. There wouldn't be any major problems for the time being. I'm almost done. You're all working for the Gu family. Even though everyone is in charge of different areas, no matter what, a problem on one side will affect other aspects. I hope you can help each other and work together to solve the problem. Yes, boss. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief and left after giving some more instructions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1225. Her mother is too cute. On the other side, Xiaoqi Yuan had already finished talking to the shopkeeper of the medicinal shop. He had also hired some people to be in charge of communicating with the farmers to buy medicine, plant medicine, concoct medicinal herbs, and run the pharmacy. Before he went to the capital, he had to make arrangements clearly. After settling the business matters, Gu Yundong and Xiaoqi Yuan went to the county city. Wenzheng had already left and returned to the capital. There was still a teacher in the school who continued to educate Yunshu and the others. Gu Yundong and Lu Wei went to the Lu residence. When Lu Wei saw them, he rushed forward excitedly and said, "Let me tell you something." Seeing how mysterious he was, Gu Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. "Tell me." Peng Zongfei's wife has been sent to a temple outside the city to cultivate for half a year. Gu Yundong was surprised. "You mean Madame Yao?" "Why?" Lu Wei had a look of, "You're pretending to be innocent," on his face. "Isn't it all because of you?" Gu Yundong frowned. "Because of her?" The last time she interacted with Madame Yao was on the day of her wedding. As expected, Lu Wei couldn't wait to speak. "On the day of your wedding, did that Madame Yao go to look for you? She even threatened you?" Xiaoqi Yuan raised his eyebrows. "Madame Yao went to threaten you? Why didn't he know about this?" Gu Yundong waved her hand. "It's all right. She's just talking. She doesn't dare to respond to my words." As she spoke, she asked Lu Wei, "Who said that she threatened me?" "Oh, your mother." Gu Yundong, "That's right." Other than her and Madame Yao, Madame Yang was also in the room. Although her mother was ignorant, she could see clearly and knew that Madame Yao's gaze and tone were not good back then. She might not understand the meaning of Madame Yao's words, but she could remember her words and tell others in detail. At that time, Madame Yao did not take Madame Yang seriously at all. Who knew that she would fall into her hands? After Madame Yang sent Gu Yundong off to get married, she was listless. It was only when she saw Madame Yao hurriedly find Peng Zhongfei and was about to leave the Gu family that she suddenly remembered Madame Yao's hostile expression towards Gu Yundong in the new room. She rushed over, looking like she wanted to settle scores with Madame Yao. Peng Zhongfei happened to be nearby and instantly heard most of Madame Yang's words. He was so angry that he was about to explode. All right, he knew he shouldn't have brought Madame Yao out of the door. This incompetent woman only knew how to drag him down. It was one thing to offend Gu Yundong once, but she actually wanted to find trouble with her on her wedding day. Was she tired of living? Peng Zhongfei did not flare up on the spot. After returning home, he started to settle scores with Madame Yao. Lu Wei laughed. We didn't know about this at first, but concubine Xia of the Peng family was so eager to see the world in chaos that she exposed it. Now we all know, ha ha ha. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She had not done anything yet. Madame Yao was courting death. Her mother had never mentioned this to her. Her mother was really too cute. Gu Yundong suddenly wanted to go back and see Madame Yang, so after telling the Lu family that she was going to the capital in a few days, she and Xiaoqi Yuan could not wait to return to Yongfu village. They were leaving in a few days. She wanted to go back and spend time with her family. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the Gu residence. Gu Yundong had just alighted from the carriage when she suddenly heard a sound coming from inside. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1226. Gu Xiaoxi's way out. Gu Yundong was shocked. He exchanged glances with Xiaoqi Yuan and hurried in. The voice beside her ear started to become clearer. It was Gu Xiaoxi's voice. The scholar was so angry that he fell back on the spot. He pointed at the woman and said, "You're simply twisting logic. I won't talk to you again. A good man doesn't fight with a woman." After saying that, the scholar hurriedly wanted to leave. Unexpectedly, the woman stretched out her leg. The scholar wasn't careful and tripped on the spot. He fell and was stunned. His face turned red and he cried. Ha 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 ha. A burst of laughter rang out. Gu Yundong had already walked to the door of the central room and could see the situation inside clearly. Her uncle stood in the middle of the central room and was telling a story vividly. He was beaming with joy and his hands and feet were waving. As for Qianxia, Madame Yang, eldest aunt, Bian Han, Gu Dajiang, little Kiki, and the others, they surrounded him and applauded. Gu Yundong turned her head helplessly and looked at Xiaoqi Yuan. I thought something had happened. Gu Dajiang faced the door and was the first to see them. He quickly called them in. You're back? Did everything go smoothly? Everything went well. Gu Yundong walked in and sat beside Madame Yang, holding her hand. Madame Yang was stunned for a moment before she grabbed her hand and smiled until her eyes narrowed. Gu Yundong asked, "What are you doing?" "Your uncle is telling a story," Qianxia said. Today, when the baby moved, he started talking to the child. As he talked, it became storytelling. She did not expect things to develop like this. Initially, she was the only one listening. Later, the entire family came to listen, and all of them listened with relish. It made her not know whether to laugh or cry. Gu Yundong was surprised. Uncle is so good? Gu Xiaoxi chuckled. On the other hand, Qianxia said with a speechless expression, "You don't know this, but ever since he heard a story in the prefectural city, he fell in love with it. The few times he went to the county city and passed by the tea house, he would stop and stand outside to listen. Once, he was so engrossed in listening that he almost missed the time when the city gate closed." Gu Yundong really did not know about this. She did not expect her uncle to like this. Xiaoqi Yuan, who was standing behind her, suddenly said, "If little uncle is interested, you can go to the tea house to be a storyteller." When I heard little uncle tell the story just now, it was actually not inferior to those storytellers. Xiaoqi Yuan was right. When Gu Xiaoxi told the story, he was simply engrossed in it. His tone was cadenced, and it sounded very picturesque. Of course, he was slightly inferior to the experienced storytellers in the prefectural city, but he was as good as the tea-house storytellers in the county city. The only thing he was lacking in was probably his lack of confidence. Gu Xiaoxi was only so open in front of his family. If they were in a tea-house, he would probably feel restrained and uncomfortable. Furthermore, there would occasionally be unexpected situations in the tea-house, and Gu Xiaoxi didn't have the ability to deal with them. But these could be trained. When Gu Xiaoxi heard that he was going to be a storyteller, he immediately waved his hand and shook his head. No, no. With my lousy skills, I can only tell stories to my child. How can I have the ability to go to a tea house to tell stories? I don't want to ruin other people's business when the time comes. No, no. I'll just farm at home. He didn't dare. He was timid. Usually, even if he went to listen to stories, he would stand at the door and listen. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1227, Just Do It. However, Gu Yundong's eyes lit up when she heard that. Sure. It's rare for younger uncle to like something. Why can't he give it a try? Although being a storyteller can't compare to doing business by himself or focusing on craftsmanship, he can get a basic salary. Occasionally, if the story is good, he can even be rewarded when he meets generous customers. Most importantly, little uncle liked it. Uncle, you're not confident now, but you'll be fine after training for a while. Moreover, you can read and speak loudly. Look, everyone surrounded you just now and was attracted by you. This means that you're very good, right? The others nodded repeatedly. Kiki clapped until her hands turned red. It's great, it's great. It's just slightly worse than my elder sister's. It's better than everybody else's. The young lady liked it the most when her elder sister told her bedtime stories in the past. She still remembered it now. In the future, when the younger brother in her aunt's stomach was born, she would tell him. Gu Dajiang agreed. It's indeed not bad. It's already very impressive to be able to memorize everything after hearing it once. Xianxia also thought it was a good idea. And every time you tell a story, your eyes shine. It was especially charming. Gu Xiaoxi felt a little embarrassed. Is it really that good? Gu Yundong nodded. Yes. If you're worried that you won't be able to speak in front of those guests, you can find a place to experiment first. She lowered her eyes and thought for a while. Suddenly, she clapped her hands. How about this? We can try it in our village first. Uncle knows almost all the villagers in Yongfu village. When the time comes, we can organize everyone to go to the grain sunning field in the evening. Tell everyone a story. Tell them what you heard in the county city. Anyway, it's free. Everyone will definitely like to hear it. Xiao Qingyuan also said, the weather isn't too cold now, and everyone is willing to go out. Uncle shouldn't be afraid in front of people he knows, right? Gu Xiaoxi thought for a moment. Then, there's really nothing to be afraid of. He was even eager to give it a try. Gu Dafeng stood up. Let's go and find the village chief now. We'll start tonight. Gu Xiaoxi let out a huh. Then, he was pulled away by Gu Dafeng. The people in the room looked at each other and then laughed. Xianxia was actually quite happy. Although she felt that Gu Xiaoxi's farming was quite good, he was too tired. Every day, she would watch him return home after a day of work, but the results were average. Her heart ached. In particular, Gu Xiaoxi's sister and brother's lives were getting better and better. This was actually quite stimulating. He also wanted to work hard to catch up. He didn't want to drag them down. He also wanted to live a good life for his unborn child. However, he did not want to completely rely on eldest sister and second brother. He wanted to rely on his own ability. However, no matter how he thought about it, he only knew how to farm. These days, Xianxia would sometimes see him reveal a very confused expression. Now that he had found a job that he liked, that was the most gratifying thing for her. Not long after, Gu Dafeng returned. Gu Xiaoxi's face was filled with excitement. The village chief has agreed. He is very supportive. He said that everyone is living a good life now. Some people have nothing to do at night and start to quarrel with others. Recently, the village chief has gone to several families to stop the fight. He's exhausted. Now that they can listen to books, these people can finally stop. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:28, Success. Everyone laughed when they heard that. In the evening, the drying field was indeed filled with people. Most of them brought stools over, and some even brought food. It looked even more lively than a banquet. All of them were extremely excited. I've never heard a storyteller telling a story before. This time, I finally have a chance to listen. That's right. When I went to the county previously, I was extremely curious when I saw the customers in the tea house cheering. However, I didn't have money in my pocket and didn't dare to enter. I didn't even dare to get close. I went to listen to it once. That feeling. TSK, it's very beautiful. It's just that tea is too expensive. I could only hide outside and listen. When Gu Yundong arrived, there were almost no seats left. Fortunately, she was Gu Xiaoxi's family and had special privileges. The seats in the front row had already been reserved for them. Gu Yundong and Xiaoqing quickly walked through the crowd to the front. As soon as they sat down, Gu Xiaoxi walked up with an excited and uneasy expression. Gu Yundong clenched her fists and cheered him on. When Gu Xiaoxi saw this, he instantly felt confident. He swept his gaze across the crowd below. Very good. They were all familiar faces. He was not afraid anymore. There was already a table in front of him. Gu Xiaoxi imitated the storyteller in the tea house and slammed the wooden tablet. The buzzing crowd instantly quietened down. Everyone's gaze was focused on Gu Xiaoxi. Gu Xiaoxi was inexperienced and did not know anything about opening lines. When everyone looked at him, he went straight to the point. In the distant sea, there was a girl called Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu had been well protected since he was young. Her family was harmonious, and her parents doted on her. Until one day, as Gu Yundong listened, she felt that something was wrong. This story sounded familiar. She looked at Kiki, who was sitting in Gu Dajiang's arms and listening with interest. She carried the little girl over. Huh! The little girl's body suddenly rose into the air. She was stunned and quickly turned her head. Seeing that her big sister was carrying her, she was immediately relieved. Gu Yundong held her small hand and asked in a low voice, "Did you tell this story to Uncle?" The little girl nodded. That's right. Gu Yundong could not help but pinch her little face and shake her head in laughter. This was the bedtime story she told the little girl. It was almost a big adaptation of The Mermaid's Tale. It was mainly because Kiki was a glutton and she looked obedient and pleasant. Gu Yundong was worried that the little girl would be tricked by others with just a little food, so she deliberately made up a story to tell her not to be easily deceived by strangers. She did not expect her uncle to tell such a story today. Actually, this was also good. Now that the conditions in Yongfu village were good, countless people outside wanted to marry the girls in the village. It would be fine if they only liked the girls because of the good conditions, but those people who had ill intentions and directly schemed against other people's assets would use despicable methods to deceive the girls. That would be terrible. Xiaoyu's story was about how Xiaoyu was ignorant of the world and was deceived by a superficial person. In the end, she did not listen to her parents and insisted on being with that person. Not only did she get herself killed, but she also lost her family. The story was a little tragic, but it inexplicably resonated with many people. After Gu Xiaoxi finished speaking, the crowd lingered for a long time. Everyone was busy criticizing the inhumane scum in the story. No one noticed that there were one or two girls in the crowd who lowered their heads slightly, looking a little guilty. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1229, Departure to the capital. Later, Gu Yundong heard that a young man from another village had secretly interacted with a girl from Yongfu village. That girl was almost deceived by that young man. After listening to Gu Xiaoxi's story that night, the young lady went back and thought for a long time before telling her parents. The girl's parents immediately got someone to inquire about the young man's family. Only then did they know that not only was the young man's family poor, but his parents were also sluggards. He had 2 brothers and a sister-in-law at home. All the work was done by that sister-in-law. When the young man's family heard that the girls in Yongfu village were all rich, they tidied up the young man and let him seduce the girl. After marrying her, the girl's family would be able to support the young man's family. When the young lady heard this, she was almost scared silly. No wonder the young man refused to explain the situation at home or let his parents come over to propose marriage. He only kept coaxing her. The young lady was tricked until she could not find her bearings and was almost done. Gu Yundong sighed when she heard that. Chen Liang even came to look for Gu Xiaoxi and asked her to tell everybody a few more such stories to warn the villagers. He especially told everyone that there was no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. Gu Xiaoxi immediately became nervous when this mission came. He could tell stories, but he couldn't write stories. He went to look for Gu Dajiang. Gu Dajiang was passionate about writing, but what he wrote was too serious. Furthermore, they were all major matters related to the country. They were far from the scope of a story. In the end, Gu Yundong rubbed her face and helped Gu Xiaoxi write a few adapted stories. However, she wasn't a professional either. It was just that she had seen a lot of things. It was fine if she made up a few, but she couldn't do too many. Hence, she suggested to Gu Xiaoxi, "Uncle, you can actually observe the things around you more and change what really happened around everyone. If you magnify the good or bad aspects, it will be a fascinating story." Gu Xiaoxi was deep in thought. To Gu Yundong's surprise, the next day, Gu Xiaoxi came over with 2 stories. Gu Yundong took a look. Wasn't this what had happened to Gu Xiaoxi and Chang Yaya? They had been adapted and divided into 2 separate stories. But one was a story about a wife who loved a young master from a rich family and wanted to climb up the social ladder by framing her man. The other was a woman who had no one to rely on. She was deceived by a friend with ill intentions and was almost killed. This was their personal experience. Gu Yundong could not help but look at Gu Xiaoxi. The latter scratched his head. "I've discussed it with Yaya. We think it's okay. As long as you think it's okay." Perhaps because he had experienced it personally, Gu Xiaoxi was especially engrossed in telling these 2 stories. The response from the villagers that day was simply enthusiastic. Gu Xiaoxi became more and more enthusiastic about storytelling. Not only that, but he also collected the events around him and edited them into storybooks. 5 days later, Gu Yundong brought Gu Xiaoxi to Jianghu restaurant in the county. The Jianghu restaurant did not have a storyteller, but it was fine to add one at the last minute. Anyway, Gu Xiaoxi was there to train his courage. It was free. After that, Gu Yundong did not care anymore. She and Xiaoqing finally decided to set off to the capital to find his background. This time, the 2 of them traveled light. Gu Yundong brought Tong Shuitao, while Xiaoqing brought Xiao Wen. The 4 of them bade farewell to the Gu family and quickly left Yongfu village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1230, 3 days to arrive. Gu Yundong returned to the prefectural city first. Nie Shuang bought a shop in the capital and was about to open it. They still had to discuss some details. On the prefecture magistrate's side, it had been exactly half a year since the vaccination. Xiaoqing had to bring the bill and the number of people who had participated in the vaccination to the capital. He also had to report the situation in the Xuanhe prefecture. There was also the shop in the prefecture capital. There was no problem with Gus. The shopkeepers and waiters were all familiar with it. If they encountered any difficulties, it would be easy to find someone to help. As for the milk tea shop, she had arranged for 2 female employees. Lan Huar had just been diagnosed with pregnancy not long ago, so Gu Yundong let her rest at home. After giving birth, it was up to them to decide if she wanted to continue working. Su Qing and Zhuangzi were also married. Not long after they got married, the 2 of them were very happy. The 2 of them did not have to worry. With Madame Dai and Nie Shuang around, they would not suffer any grievances. Gu Yundong went back after taking a look. After giving instructions in the prefectural city, the 4 of them left the Xuanhe Prefecture. To go to the capital, they had to pass through Wanqing Prefecture first. Coincidentally, Gu Yundong had not been to Wanqing Prefecture since she came back last year. She did not know how Uncle Yes grocery store was doing. Although they had exchanged letters previously, they could not say too much. There were 4 people on 1 carriage and 2 horses. If the carriage was not comfortable, they could ride horses. It was quite comfortable. Gu Yundong sat in the carriage and ate. She leaned half of her body against Xiaoxi Yuan and looked at the scenery outside the window. When she fled to the Xuanhe Prefecture, this place was still desolate. Now, it was completely different. The new emperor had indeed done many things when he ascended the throne. "Miss, there's a river over there. Let's rest here and eat something." Tong Shuetao's voice came from outside. Gu Yundong sat up straight and her body stiffened. Xiao Qingyuan held her back and rubbed it hard. "Are you feeling better?" Gu Yundong nodded and stretched her back. "You really can't slack off. If you become lazy, you won't be able to sit in the carriage for a few days. All the bones in your body seem to be stiff." She got out of the carriage and took a deep breath. She instantly felt refreshed. Tong Shuetao had already taken a small pot from the back of the carriage to get water. Xiao Wen was also picking firewood nearby. Gu Yundong looked around. "Where are we now? How long until we reach Wanqing Prefecture?" Xiao Qingyuan tied her sleeve and replied, "At this speed, we will reach Wanqing Prefecture in about 3 days. "That's good. The carriage makes me uncomfortable all over." Xiao Qingyuan smiled and said, "We'll set off later on horseback. When we reach Wanqing Prefecture, we can take a boat to the capital. It's faster to travel by water and it'll be more comfortable to take a big ship." That was true. At the very least, she would not be stiffened. If she wanted to stand up, she could only get out of the carriage. As she spoke, Tong Shuetao had already taken out the ingredients and was preparing to set up the small stove. "Miss, do we still have any hot sauce?" "I think we've finished the jar from before." "Yes, I'll go get it." Gu Yundong quickly turned around and entered the carriage. She looked through it and found out that they actually finished the few jars she had brought along. She had made this spicy sauce. It was filled with oil, and it was especially fragrant with porridge and rice. The 4 of them would open 1 jar every few days to eat. Now that the last bottle was gone, she could only take out 2 bottles from her space. Just as she was about to take them down, she suddenly heard a commotion. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1231, Something Missing. Gu Yundong was stunned. She was still in the carriage, but she had already lifted the curtain and looked out. Then, she realized that a convoy was walking over. They stopped not far away. It seemed that they were also planning to rest. Xiao Qingyuan, who was outside the carriage, also looked at the convoy. It looked like a caravan transporting goods. There were 6 carriages in the entire convoy. The carriages were filled with large boxes and sacks. She did not know what they were. There were a total of 14 to 15 people, all of whom were tall and strong men. They also saw Xiao Qingyuan and the others. Seeing their clothes, they could roughly guess that the newly married couple was on a long trip. The leader came over to greet Xiao Qingyuan. "Little brother, we're a caravan transporting goods to Qingan Prefecture. We're here to rest for a while. It's rare for us to be fated. Little brother, where are you going? To Wanqing Prefecture. What a coincidence. We came from Wanqing Prefecture. This place is not far from Wanqing Prefecture. Where did you come from? Xiaoxi felt that this person was a little annoying. Why did he ask so many questions? Everyone should just keep a distance from each other and not disturb each other. Couldn't they just go their separate ways after eating? Therefore, he only said coldly, "We're going to have lunch." When the leader saw this, he understood and did not ask further. He returned to his convoy. Someone immediately surrounded him and asked, "Boss, what's his background?" He said that he's going to Wanqing Prefecture. He's not willing to say anything else. The leader waved his hand. Forget it. It's fine if he doesn't want to talk. Let's not interact much. Be vigilant and leave after eating. Alright, they'll go get water. The two parties did their own things and did not disturb each other. It was just, the convoy was eating dry rations and pancakes with water, and Yundong's team was eating hot pot? Yes, hot pot. Before they came, Yundong had stir-fried the base of the hot pot. Now that the water was boiled, the hot pot base melted with a little water. They had also bought some meat and vegetables from the county city they had passed last night. Now that everybody was hot and cooked, it was directly covered in hot sauce. It was simply delicious. The rich taste of the hot pot made the convoy swallow their saliva. Looking at the dry rations in their hands, they could not eat anymore. Are these people really on a trip? They're not here for an outing? The leader also felt that they were here for an outing. Who would go on a long trip with such things? Yundong and the other three did not think so. Firstly, they were not in a hurry. Secondly, it was especially uncomfortable to stay in the carriage all day. It was rare for them to stop to rest and eat. Of course, they treated themselves to the best extent that they could. Besides, she and Xiaoxi had just gotten married. This trip was their honeymoon. Of course, she couldn't mistreat herself and leave behind regrets. Therefore, when she suddenly mentioned that she wanted to eat hot pot last night, the four of them immediately started to buy ingredients and prepared them. The people on the convoy side became even more disoriented. They sniffed hard, regretting stopping at this place to suffer such a critical hit. After Yundong finished eating, she poured a glass of water in satisfaction and slowly drank it. Then, she watched comfortably as Xiaoxi put out the fire and brought her some fruits from the carriage. However, just as she finished half a glass of water and ate 2 dates, a loud cry suddenly came from the convoy. It's gone. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1232. That person jumped up and ran. Yundong and the others subconsciously looked at the convoy. Everyone in the convoy stood up and looked nervously at the person who had spoken. What's missing? That person looked anxious. Half of the big bag of steamed buns I bought last night is gone. Also, my 2 clothes are gone, and the water in the container is gone. The people in the convoy were stunned. That's all? Could you have forgotten where you left them? Did you eat the steamed buns yourself? That person panicked. I didn't. They're really missing. I originally planned to eat them tonight. I still have pancakes. Why would I eat steamed buns? This time, I brought 2 sets of clothes for changing. Now, I'm wearing 1 set. The remaining set is gone, and the jacket I used to sleep with is also gone. The others looked at each other. The leader frowned. They shouldn't have disappeared for no reason. Everyone, look around and see if they're mixed up elsewhere. He couldn't have met a thief, right? Which thief would be so stupid as to steal food, drinks, and clothes instead of these valuable goods? The leader waved his hand, and the others immediately moved. However, just as they started looking on the first carriage, a person suddenly jumped out from behind the last carriage and ran into the forest in front without looking back. It was probably too sudden. The people in the convoy were stunned. The next moment, they heard the man who had lost something shout, "Hey, my clothes!" He's wearing my jacket. As soon as he finished speaking, the man quickly chased after him. The others ran forward one after another. The leader frowned and shouted, "Just 2 people will chase after them. The rest of you, stay here on guard." The people who were running forward suddenly realized that there were still several carriages of their goods here. How could they all leave? They returned to the convoy and saw the steamed buns that fell beside the last carriage. They squatted down and picked them up one by one. Was that guy a beggar who came from somewhere? He hadn't eaten for a few days, so he came to our convoy to steal some food? Looking at the current situation, that seemed to be the case, but the leader was cautious. He instructed the few of them, "See if there's anything wrong with the goods. Well, see if they catch up to them." Yes. The others began to check. Not far away, Yundong and Xiaoxi looked at each other and quietly continued walking by the river to digest their food. There seemed to be nothing else missing from the convoy. After a while, the 2 pursuers returned. However, they were the only ones who returned. The leader asked, "You didn't catch up?" "We followed him to the river on the other side of the forest. There's a bamboo raft parked on the shore. That person ran far away with a bamboo pole. We couldn't catch up." "Boss, are we missing anything?" "No." The leader frowned. "There are only 2 pieces of your clothes missing." The man who had lost his clothes sighed with a frown. However, it was a good thing that the goods weren't missing. However, the leader felt that it was not appropriate to complicate matters, so he called for everyone to stop resting and leave quickly. They didn't speak to Xiaoqi and the others anymore. They hurriedly packed up and the convoy quickly left. The lively lakeside instantly fell silent. Tong Shuitao went to Yundong's side. "Miss, what do you think happened just now?" "I don't know. Anyway, it's none of our business." "Well, leave later too. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1233. It's actually an acquaintance. Tong Shuitao and Xiao Wen washed the pots and bowls and placed them in the carriage. Yundong had eaten too much just now. After walking for a while, she felt much better. Just as she was about to get into the carriage and leave, a person suddenly rushed out of the forest. Yundong and the others were stunned. Wasn't this the person who had escaped just now? His clothes were exactly the same as the person who had escaped just now. Didn't they say that he had left on the bamboo raft? Why was he back? Yundong and Xiaoqi looked at each other. That person also saw them and was shocked. He hurriedly turned and ran to the side. However, after running a few steps, he suddenly stopped and widened his eyes at Yundong. Miss Yundong was surprised. This person knew her? Judging from her voice, she was a woman. That person quickly ran up to them. Yundong frowned and looked at her messy hair and dirty face. This woman did look familiar. She paused and suddenly had an idea. "Miss Duan?" "Yes, it's me." As if she had met her family, Duan burst into tears. Yundong suddenly did not know what to do. She quickly handed her a handkerchief. "You, don't cry yet. What happened? Why didn't you stay in Wanqing Prefecture? Why did you come here? Where's your elder brother? How did you end up like this?" At first, Yundong's impression of Duan was average. She was a rather proud young lady who would always be superior to others. It was difficult to talk to her. However, later on, she seemed to be sensible. After knowing that Yundong was not to be trifled with, she immediately restrained the thorns on her body and kept quiet. However, Duan's elder brother, Duan Qian, was a very capable and decisive businessman. After the Xian residence was destroyed, Duan Qian quickly gathered all the businesses that could be inherited in the Xian residence. The Duan family became a large family in the Wanqing residence. Last year, when she left Wanqing Prefecture, she had even asked Duan Qian to help take care of her grocery store. Why was Duan in such a state now? Duan Qian had always doted on his sister. She shouldn't be in such dire straits, right? Lady Gu, just as Duan Wan was about to speak, a sound came from the forest again. Someone walked over. Be careful. That girl must be hiding nearby. Don't miss her. Damn it, this girl really knows how to escape. Don't let me catch her, or I'll teach her a lesson. The voice was getting closer and closer. Duan Wan's face instantly turned pale. She hid behind Gu Yundong, and the hand that was holding her sleeve trembled violently. Lady Gu, help me. Although Gu Yundong did not know what had happened, for Duan Qian's sake, she would not leave Duan Wan alone. Glancing at the forest, Gu Yundong grabbed Duan Wan's hand and pushed her onto the carriage. Go up and hide first. Don't make a sound. Okay. Duan Wan swallowed her saliva and hurriedly shrank into the carriage. Gu Yundong had just lowered the curtain when the 5 people in the forest came out. These people were obviously martial arts practitioners. One of them frowned slightly when he saw Gu Yundong and the others. He went forward and asked, Who are you? Did you see a 15 or 16-year-old girl? Xiao Qingyuan and Xiao Wen took 2 steps forward and blocked the way. We didn't see any. The 5 of them looked at each other and their gazes landed on the carriage behind them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1234, Search the carriage. You didn't see her? I saw that girl running over just now. Don't tell me you hid her in the carriage. Let me tell you, that girl is an imperial criminal. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. If a stranger heard this, they would definitely weigh the pros and cons in their hearts. They might really hand Duan Wan over. Unfortunately, Gu Yundong knew Duan Wan. How could she easily believe their words? Moreover, looking at them, their fierce tone made them seem more like the imperial court's criminals. Xiao Qingyuan's gaze was cold. I don't know who the imperial court is, and we didn't see any girls. You can leave. Leave? That won't do. I clearly saw that girl running this way. This area is empty. Only your carriage can hide people. How about this? Let us search. If there's no one, well, leave immediately. How about that? Xiao Qingyuan sneered. It doesn't sound good. I'm not willing. Hey, brother, aren't you asking for it? You have to think about it. There are 5 of us, and you only have 2 men. You even have to protect the 2 women. It's not a good idea to go against us. As they spoke, the 5 of them approached Xiao Qingyuan and Xiao Wen. Xiao Qingyuan knew that these people would not listen to him if he spoke nicely, so he started to roll up his sleeves. However, before he made his move, he turned around and said to Gu Yundong, who was behind him, Rest first. Your stomach feels uncomfortable after eating too much just now. It's best not to act too vigorously. Gu Yundong was speechless. You're the one who ate too much. Your whole family ate too much. Bah, it seemed like he was the only one in his family. But Gu Yundong still nodded and stood in front of the carriage. When the 5 of them saw this, they were instantly enraged. You guys are quite arrogant. Don't beg for mercy later. Go. The few of them instantly surrounded him. Xiao Qingyuan didn't care, but Xiao Wen clenched his fists and was eager to try. Although he had learned martial arts, he usually went deep into the mountains to fight with those wild beasts and animals. Then, he fought with Xiao Wu and the others. He really did not have the chance to encounter such people who came to find trouble for him to practice. The bodyguard from the escort agency had taught him. Although these people were martial arts practitioners, it was obvious that their lower bodies were unstable and their footsteps were unsteady. They had yet to catch a woman. They looked unreliable. Therefore, even if Xiao Wen thought that his skills were average, he would definitely have no problem dealing with them. Therefore, as soon as those people rushed up, Xiao Wen went up to them. 3 people immediately surrounded Xiao Qingyuan. The 3 of them held knives and sticks in their hands and attacked him without saying a word. Duan, who was hiding in the carriage, looked at the scene outside through the gap in the curtain and instantly held her breath. She asked Gu Yundong, who was standing beside the carriage, in a trembling voice, Will it be okay? It's fine. Just stay inside and don't make a sound. Okay. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Qingyuan kicked the first person who approached. Then, he turned around and avoided the second knife in his hand. He raised his hand and slashed at the back of the enemy's neck, knocking him to the ground. The third person hit the back of his head with a stick. Xiao Qingyuan seemed to have eyes behind him. He tilted his body slightly. After dodging, he turned around and grabbed the stick in his hand. He pulled it forward fiercely. The next moment, his left hand formed a fist and hit his stomach heavily. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them fell to the ground. On Xiao Wen's side, he had already knocked down one person and started to deal with the second person. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1235, Who will deal with who? Tong Shuitao was a little disappointed. She had thought that these people would be able to break through the defense of her master's husband and Xiao Wen, run to her, and be sent flying with a kick. It was a pity that these people were too useless. She shook her head regretfully and restrained her urge while standing beside her lady. Gu Yundong glanced at her from the corner of her eye and the corners of her mouth twitched. Who did Tong Shuitao take after when she had such a violent personality? Tong Ping and Madame Jiang were clearly gentle. Xiao Qingyuan looked down at the 5 people who had been beaten down. Do you still want to search our carriage now? Xiao Wen also squatted on the ground and reached out to tug at the collar of one of them. That's right. Do you still want to search the carriage now? I don't think you're looking for anyone at all. You clearly think that we're easy to bully because we have few people. You want to take advantage of us. No. The 5 of them were no longer as arrogant as before. They begged the 2 of them repeatedly, we're really looking for her. We saw her run this way with our own eyes, so, why didn't I see anything? I only saw the few of you running this way. You came to find trouble with us the moment you arrived. Our mood to eat and enjoy the outing has been ruined by you. No, Xiaowen did not give them a chance to refute and hit his head. You're still denying it. I was wrong. Big brother, I was wrong. We were blind and didn't recognize you. We didn't know what was good for us and spoke nonsense. Let us go. We won't dare to do it again. Only then did Xiao Wen stop. He stood up and walked to Xiao Qingyuan's side. Young master, how should we deal with them? Xiao Qingyuan frowned and looked at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong glanced at them and said, since they are on the imperial court's order, we can't make things difficult for them. If they admit their mistake, forget it. There won't be a next time. It's getting late. We still have to hurry to Qingan Prefecture. If we're any later, we won't be able to make it to our inn. Qingan Prefecture? They were clearly going to Wanqing Prefecture. Tong Shuitao was a little puzzled, but when she saw Miss Gaze, she immediately understood. Xiao Qingyuan and Xiao Wen also nodded. Xiao Wen patted the man's head again. Open your eyes wider next time. You're lucky. Gu Yundong was helped into the carriage by Tong Shuitao. Xiao Qingyuan and Xiao Wen sat on the shaft of the carriage. The carriage turned around and headed in the direction where the convoy had left. After riding far away, Xiao Qingyuan changed directions and began to travel on the main road of Wanqing Prefecture. Gu Yundong finally focused her attention on Duan. Only then did she realize that Duan's original dress was very thin. No wonder she had stolen the jacket from the convoy. She did not look good either. Gu Yundong frowned and suddenly reached out to touch her forehead. As expected, it was a little hot. Duan relaxed and became confused. She leaned against the wall of the car weakly. Gu Yundong brought a pill over. Xiao Qingyuan had made it. Eat this first. Thank you. Duan trusted her, so she stuffed it into her mouth without saying anything. Then, she took the water bottle from Tong Shuetao's hand and gulped down the medicine. Unexpectedly, after drinking the water, her stomach started rumbling. Duan's face turned red as she buried her head between her knees. Yundong sighed and took out some pastries from the cabinet. There was still a boiled egg in the cabinet that had been left from the morning. Now, she stuffed it into her hands. Come, let's eat something first. We'll talk after we're done. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1236, Duan Xian missing. Duan could not help but cry again. She held the egg and pastry and did not move for a long time. After a while, she looked up and said, "Thank you. Eat first." Duan lowered her head and immediately wolfed down the food. Yundong frowned. She looked like she had not eaten for a long time and wished she could swallow everything in one breath. She was like a different person from the arrogant Miss Duan Yundong had seen last time. Duan finally finished eating and wiped her mouth with her sleeve. She really could not care less about her image. Yundong handed the kettle over. Slow down. Be careful not to choke. Why are you in such a sorry state? You haven't eaten for a few days, right? I haven't eaten for 2 days. Duan finished drinking the water, then lowered her head and said in a low voice, "After leaving Wanqing Prefecture, I hid everywhere." Her tears fell again, and she wiped them with all her might and continued, "After that, I followed a caravan that went to Qingan Prefecture and hid in the box of their carriage. I was afraid that they would find out, so I didn't dare to make a sound. But I was too hungry and smelled the fragrance, so I couldn't help but take the steamed buns from their caravan to eat. In the end, I was discovered the moment I took a bite. I left the steamed buns and ran away." Previously, she had only been drinking water and did not have much strength in her body. When she was being chased, she ran purely on instinct. Her legs were actually very weak. She had no choice. If they caught up to her, she might lose her life. Now that she was sitting in the carriage, she felt that her legs were trembling. Yundong and Tong Shuetao looked at each other and touched their noses silently. Duan smelled a very fragrant smell. Could it be the hot pot that they made? Yundong coughed lightly and asked, "Why did you leave Wanqing Prefecture? Where's your brother?" Duan pursed her lips. After a while, she choked and said, "He's missing." "What did you say?" Yundong was stunned. "Missing? Why did Duan Xian disappear?" Duan sniffled. "Brother went to Qingan Prefecture 2 months ago and said that he had a business deal to discuss, but he didn't come back. Half a month ago, the servant boy who was with brother came back and reported that brother suddenly disappeared. He searched the entire Qingan Prefecture but couldn't find him. I don't know where he went." Yundong frowned. "Qingan Prefecture? Is that why you followed the Qingan Prefecture's convoy and left home to find your brother?" She guessed and then shook her head. No, if that was the case, there was no reason for someone to hunt her down. Sure enough, Duan shook her head. "I did want to find my brother, but I also knew that I didn't have the ability, so I wanted to find someone to help me. But before I could find someone to help me, I got into trouble." "Someone wanted to harm you?" Duan nodded and instantly gritted her teeth. "It's my second uncle. When he saw that my brother was missing, he told everyone that my brother was dead. The managers who followed my brother didn't believe him and insisted on waiting for him to return. However, second uncle suddenly made things difficult for them. Who knew that second aunt would attack me at this time?" Yundong sighed inwardly. It was easy for problems to arise with a large family business. As expected, Duan Xian had the entire Duan family in his hands at a young age. Naturally, there were people who were dissatisfied. It was fine if he was supervising the Duan family, but once something happened, these people would jump out and cause trouble. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1237, Duan Wan's Decision. Duan Wan took a deep breath. Second aunt drugged me when I wasn't paying attention. She wanted me to have a good relationship with old Master Zheng in the city. Old Master Zheng is already in his 30s and has many wives and concubines in the family. If I marry into the Zheng family, I will fall into a fire pit. Fortunately, a servant girl by second aunt's side once received my brother's help and was grateful to him, so she secretly told my maids. Unfortunately, the message was sent too late. By the time Duan Wan's maids knew about this, Duan Wan had already been drugged. Her two maidservants were loyal. One of them stalled for time while the other carried her out of the Duan family. Tong Shuitao asked, "What about your maidservant?" Duan Wan shook her head. "I don't know. Someone was chasing us. I don't know if they're second uncle's men or the Zheng family's men. In order to let me escape, Jilan used herself as bait to lure them away." Now, Yundong patted her. "So when you saw the convoy going to Qingan Prefecture, you might as well follow them and see if you could find Duan Qian?" Duan Wan nodded. Yundong lowered her eyes and thought for a moment. It was impossible for her to change direction and go to Qingan Prefecture now. Putting aside the fact that most of the people who were investigating Duan Wan had gone to Qingan Prefecture to look for her, just Duan Qian's disappearance was very strange. It was not wise for her to go over rashly. Hence, she said to Duan Wan, "We're going to Wanqing Prefecture now. If you trust me, follow us there. Your brother is a capable person. It's impossible for him to disappear for no reason. You might not be able to find him even if you go to Qingan Prefecture. You might even put yourself in danger. Of course, if you insist, I won't stop you. When we reach the next town, it'll help you find a reliable and suitable escort agency to bring you to Qingan Prefecture." Duan Wan raised her head, her eyes filled with confusion. She did not know if she would go to Qingan Prefecture. Duan Wan had also been on a long trip, and she had even been to the capital. However, that was all under the protection of her eldest brother, with maidservants and guards by her side. She did not have to worry about anything when she went out and only had to eat and drink. This was the first and only time she left Wanqing Prefecture alone. In just 3 days, it felt like 3 years had passed. There were a few times when she felt like she was going to die and would never see her brother again. If not for the fact that she did not believe that something had happened to her brother, she might have collapsed long ago. Now, Duan Wan's head was getting heavier. She looked at Yundong and recalled what her eldest brother had said. After a while, she finally said in a low voice, "I will return to Wanqing Prefecture and wait for Big Brother's news." "Okay, well, take you back." Duan Wan forced out a smile and let out a sigh of relief, finally collapsing. Yundong took a pillow for her as a cushion. Seeing her half-closed eyes, she said softly, "Go to sleep." "Thank you." Duan Wan closed her eyes and soon fell asleep. Yundong took off her jacket and covered her with a blanket. Then, she sat at the side and pondered. When Duan Wan woke up again, the carriage had already entered a county under Wanqing Prefecture. Yundong turned her head and glanced at her. "You're awake? Your fever is almost gone, but you probably don't have much strength left in your body. After dinner at the inn, take your medicine again and sleep tomorrow. You'll be fine." Duan Wan nodded and looked at the scenery outside. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1238, I owed the Emperor in my past life. She had been to this county city before. The previous convoy had stopped here. However, Duan Wan was too busy hiding at that time, so she naturally didn't have the mood to look outside. Now that she looked at it again, she realized that this county city was also very lively. The carriage stopped in front of an inn. Duan Wan got off the carriage with Tong Shuitao's help. Her legs were still weak, but she was much better. The 5 of them reserved 3 rooms. Yundong let Duan Wan and Tong Shuitao stay together. Duan Wan did not feel safe now, so it was better to have someone by her side. The few of them ate dinner in the room. In the afternoon, everyone had hot pot. At night, they cleared their stomachs and ate porridge. It was just a bowl of ordinary pumpkin porridge in a small county, but to Duan Wan, who had not eaten a mouthful of hot porridge for 2 days, it was like a delicacy in the world. After swallowing it, the warm feeling surged up in her throat, making her tears fall at once. After dinner, Duan Wan went to rest. Gu Yundong lay on the bed and moved to a more comfortable position in Xiao Qingyuan's arms. She then asked, "What do you think about Duan Qian's disappearance?" Xiao Qingyuan kissed the corner of her mouth and said in a low voice, "You said that although Duan Qian is young, he's very scheming. His whereabouts are unknown after making a trip to the Qingan Prefecture. It really doesn't make sense. He can't just bring a servant with him." Gu Yundong nodded. "I think so too. He's so young to be in charge of the Duan family. How can he not have anyone protecting him? But Duan Wan's matter is quite strange." Gu Yundong was stunned. "What's strange?" With Duan Qian missing, second master Duan couldn't wait to take over. Actually, it was wise for him to persuade Duan Wan to stand on his side and subdue those managers together. However, he couldn't wait to marry Duan Wan off. At this juncture, he's very patient. Gu Yundong paused for a moment and immediately nodded. "That's right. Moreover, he married Duan Wan to a 30-year-old master of the Zheng family who is far less wealthy than the Duan family. If word gets out, the Duan family's reputation will be completely ruined. Second Master Duan and his wife will also be criticized. It's indeed very strange." Xiao Qingyuan saw that she was frowning from thinking so much and couldn't help but smile. He pinched her chin and said, "No matter what the reason is, since we're going to Wanqing Prefecture, I don't think we can get away from this. Not to mention how much Duan Xian took care of our provision store previously. Just the Duan family was selected by you and Master Mo to take over the Xian Prefecture and become a big family in Wanqing Prefecture. We can't avoid it. If Wanqing Prefecture fell into the hands of Second Master Duan, with his ability, the entire merchant economy of Wanqing Prefecture might be in chaos. This was not a good thing for the current emperor. Although the current emperor did not want the Duan family to dominate alone, it was clearly not the time yet. At the very least, the Duan family was promoted by his people. The Duan family was loyal to the current emperor and could very actively cooperate with the current policies. If someone else dominated Wanqing Prefecture now, it would be a huge headache for the emperor. Gu Yundong also thought of this and immediately wailed, "Why do I feel that I owed the emperor in my previous life?" They had clearly never met, but how many things had Gu Yundong done for him, both openly and secretly? The problem was that there was no reward. Just thinking about it made her feel indignant, uncomfortable, unhappy, and wanted to explode. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1239, Gu Yundong is really capable. Xiao Qingyuan laughed and hugged her tightly. He turned around and pressed her down. "Didn't you say that everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of the country? He's a good emperor now. He's a wise ruler. Isn't that a good thing for small fries like us? If there's a new emperor, the sugar business won't be able to be preserved. It's too hard for me. I'm here," Xiao Qingyuan said as he slowly bent down and kissed her. Gu Yundong moaned softly. Soon, only small sounds could be heard in the room. The next day, when the two of them walked out of the room again, they found that Duan Wan had already come out. She looked much more energetic, and her fever had completely subsided. She changed her clothes. It was Tong Shui's house. Gu Yundong wanted to buy her a set of clothes. Although she had clothes, she had grown taller in the past 2 years and was now a little taller than Duan Wan. Her clothes were too big for Duan Wan. Tong Shui's clothes were just right, but the fabric was definitely not as good as Duan Wan's. This girl had always been comfortable and neat, so she wore her clothes comfortably. Unexpectedly, Duan Wan rejected the proposal to buy new clothes. She felt that this was good. She did not want to attract attention. Although Gu Yundong told her that there were no pursuers behind her, Duan still felt that she should keep a low profile as much as possible. Gu Yundong was very gratified to hear that. As expected, this girl had learned from her mistakes. After experiencing such an escape, the once arrogant eldest miss had become much more mature. Since that was the case, Gu Yundong did not force her. The group continued on their way and left the county. However, their speed was still unhurried. Occasionally, they would stop to eat something delicious. It looked like an outing. Duan was originally very anxious, but during such a journey, she actually slowly calmed down. Yes, so what if she was anxious? What was the use of being anxious? What could she do when she returned? She couldn't even show her face. How could she take revenge and settle scores with second uncle and second aunt? After calming down, Duan began to think about these questions that she had never thought about carefully. However, as she thought about it, she could not find an answer. Her entire person went from confusion to contemplation to confusion. She could not find a lead at all. Finally, the night before the carriage entered Wanqing Prefecture, Duan took a deep breath and knocked on Gu Yundong and Xiaoxi door. Gu Yundong was surprised to see her. Xiaoxi poured a glass of warm water for the two of them without a word. He helped Gu Yundong put on a cloak and said, "It's cold in the morning and evening now. Put on a cloak and don't catch a cold." Then, he let Duan and Gu Yundong chat slowly while he opened the door and went out to talk to Xiaowen. Duan stood in the room and stared at Xiaoxi the entire time. She only snapped out of her daze when Gu Yundong knocked on the table after she left. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes slightly. She knew that her man was very charming, but this girl could not stare at him so openly, right? And in front of her. However, Duan smiled and said, "In the past, Big Brother told me that Miss Gu is so young, but she has the ability to take down that eye-catching shop in the Xian residence. Either Miss Gu has a powerful backer, or Miss Gu is very capable. My big brother said that you're the latter, but I've always been unconvinced and felt that you have a powerful backer." Gu Yundong blinked. "Is it really okay to say such things in front of me?" Unexpectedly, Duan took a deep breath and said again, "Now, I think Big Brother is right. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1240, Gu Yundong's Reminder, "What made you change your mind?" "Because I saved you?" Gu Yundong asked. However, Duan shook her head. "No, I changed my mind when I saw how considerate and thoughtful your husband was to you just now." Gu Yundong, is it always so novel when you change your mind? Did this girl think that she was capable just because she saw that Brother Xiao was good to her? Come. Explain clearly. Which aspect of capability are you referring to?" Duan did not see her expression. She took a sip of tea and said, "Now I feel that running to you for help without hesitation might have been the best thing I did." Hee. Gu Yundong laughed dryly and drank some tea. "So, why are you looking for me now?" Speaking of this, Duan suddenly became nervous. She held the teacup and poured herself another cup of water. She raised her head and drank it. Then, she looked at her firmly and said, "I want to ask you what I should do after returning to Wanqing Prefecture." What to do? Gu Yundong did not expect her to ask this. "What do you want to do?" Duan lowered her head. "I don't know. I realize now that I don't have any skills. I can't find my brother, and I can't take revenge on my second uncle and second aunt." Gu Yundong frowned. "Have you ever thought of finding the whereabouts of your two maids first?" Duan was stunned. "Find the whereabouts of the two maids? But I can't enter the Duan residence." Of course, she had thought about it. Jilan and Huilan were loyal to her. If they were fine, they would most likely be locked up in the Duan manor. But how could she enter the Duan manor alone? Gu Yundong rubbed her forehead. All right, she could not expect a girl who had always been pampered and did not need to use her brain to think about these things. Forget it, I'll just treat it as returning Duan Xian's favor. Gu Yundong could only remind her, you can't enter the Duan mansion, but the people from the Duan mansion can always come out. For example, the maidservant who reported to you previously. That maidservant, she usually serves in the mansion and doesn't come out often. Duan Wan hesitated. She always felt that the way Miss Gu looked at her just now was as if she was looking at someone retarded. But she wasn't wrong. Gu Yundong secretly clenched her fists and put on a smile. She said, did you tell me that your brother's managers are loyal to him? Duan Wan nodded and met Gu Yundong's gaze. She suddenly had a flash of inspiration and reacted belatedly. You're saying that I can ask these managers for help? Let them send a letter to that maidservant or other maidservants in the residence who are loyal to me and then tell me the whereabouts of Jilan, Huilan, and the others? She was finally worthy of being taught. Gu Yundong nodded and took a sip of tea. That's right. As for how those managers operated, there were many ways. Although they were working outside, they definitely had connections in the residence, and they were very strong. Not to mention anything else, it was just a matter of convenience for the kitchen staff to pass on a message, or for these servants in the outer courtyard to pass the message to a certain maidservant or old woman in the inner courtyard. In the entire Duan family, she believed that there were definitely more people loyal to Duan Xian than to Second Master Duan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1241, Recent News of Wanqing Prefecture. Duan Wan slowly understood what Gu Yundong meant. She gradually became confident. Yes, although Big Brother was not around, the people he left behind were all around. If she secretly contacted them, she would be able to find Jilan and Huilan's whereabouts first. Eldest brother was right. Lady Gu was indeed a capable person. Duan Wan's eyes lit up. She grabbed Gu Yundong's hand. Then what should I do next? Gu Yundong almost spilled the water in her cup. The corners of her mouth twitched. After a while, she said, well, no, later. We haven't arrived at Wanqing Prefecture and don't know the situation inside. It's useless to say anything now. We have to analyze the specific situation. Duan Wan nodded repeatedly. Yes, you're right. Gu Yundong exhaled. Then go back tonight and think about who is the most trustworthy person in charge. Duan Wan understood and said seriously, okay, I'll think about it carefully. Thank you, Yundong. With that, she stood up. Then I'll go back first. Have a good rest. As soon as she finished speaking, she had already opened the door and left. Gu Yundong drank the warm water in one gulp. Xiaoxi pushed open the door and entered. Are you done? Yes. Gu Yundong sighed and shook his head. Women are really fickle. One moment, she called me Miss Gu, and then she called me Yundong affectionately. They were clearly not that close. Xiaoqi glanced at her. You're a woman too. Gu Yundong, you really have no desire to live. Go to bed early. Well, enter the city tomorrow. The next morning, the five of them set off again. Perhaps because she had a goal, Duan Wan looked energetic today, as if she was full of fighting spirit. However, when she thought about how she was about to reach Wanqing Prefecture, she took a deep breath and tried her best to lower her head to avoid attracting attention. Gu Yundong smiled and exchanged glances with Xiaoqi. As they approached Wanqing Prefecture, the roadside became more prosperous. Duan Wan did not dare to lift the curtains and look outside again, afraid that others would accidentally recognize her. The carriage only entered Wanqing Prefecture in the afternoon. Gu Yundong was quite familiar with Wanqing Prefecture, so she found an inn to stay in. She asked Xiao Wen to drive the carriage past the entrance of the Gus store and peeked inside. She didn't see Eugene, Old Master Yu, and the others, but she saw Boss Zhang greeting the guests. There didn't seem to be anything unusual. Gu Yundong put down the curtains and the carriage drove all the way to the inn. After they reserved rooms, Duan Wan said to Gu Yundong impatiently, "There's a manager surnamed Lin. He's the person my brother trusts the most. Previously, my brother saved Uncle Lin's life, so he's the most loyal to my brother. Gu Yundong nodded. Write a letter. I'll get Xiaowen to send it to Uncle Lin tomorrow. Duan was stunned. Xiaowen? What is it? I'm thinking that since Uncle Lin is loyal to my brother, my second uncle will definitely send people to keep an eye on him. When the time comes, won't Xiaowen be exposed? Gu Yundong smiled. Don't worry. Xiaowen has a way. Who would give the letter to him openly? Duan was stunned. Is that so? What she imagined was to give it openly. However, Duan heaved a sigh of relief when Gu Yundong agreed to help. After resting for a night, Gu Yundong went to the tea house the next day to inquire about the latest news in Wanqing Prefecture. Apart from Duan Xian's disappearance, there was another piece of news that was being discussed fervently. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1242, Scheming Man. Duan Xian's disappearance should have been kept a secret, but Second Master Duan's actions were too big, causing the people who had been staring at the Duan family to quickly realize that something was wrong and expose the matter. However, the Duan family's matters were other people's matters. To the commoners, they were just gossiping and it had nothing to do with them. However, there was another piece of news that was closely related to them. There was a new general in Wanqing Prefecture. It was said that he was a swift and decisive person. The moment he arrived, he accomplished a few major things and confiscated several families. Even someone whose official position was second only to the general was arrested. It caused the entire prefectural city to be in a state of panic. Especially those who had a guilty conscience, they were even more timid and did not dare to make a fuss. Gu Yundong could not help but be stunned when she heard the news. She remembered that the Xian family had colluded with the prefecture magistrate of the Wanqing Prefecture. Later on, the prefecture magistrate was also punished. After that, the emperor sent a new prefecture magistrate. The new prefecture magistrate was a tactful person. It was unknown if he was trying to smooth things over or if he was doing it on purpose. In short, his performance after taking office was mediocre and he had never done anything. Now that she thought about it, it was most likely done on purpose by the emperor. At that time, the Xian family and the prefecture magistrate had been beheaded and caused such a huge commotion. The entire Wanqing prefecture had suffered a huge loss. If they continued to use harsh methods to deal with those who deserved to be dealt with, the development of the Wanqing prefecture would plummet. It had to be known that the Yongning prefecture had just experienced a disaster not long ago. After the Qingan prefecture's disaster ended, the Xuanhe prefecture and Wanqing prefecture were also affected. The emperor had just ascended the throne less than a year ago and had even implemented several initiatives. Therefore, he really did not have the energy and time to deal with these unimportant characters. However, now that the emperor was free, he immediately sent a decisive general, who caught those people who thought they were safe and started to cause trouble unprepared. The man cleaned up the entire officialdom of Wanqing Prefecture. It seemed that the prefecture magistrate, who had always performed averagely, had not just been eating and waiting for death in the past year. Gu Yundong sighed in her heart. As expected, the current emperor was really a scheming man. She asked Duan, "Have you heard of General Dou?" Duan shook her head. "I only know that a new general came more than a month ago, but I don't know anything else." Ever since her brother left Wanqing Prefecture, Duan had hardly left the house, so her knowledge was very limited. More than a month ago? In such a short period of time? Duan nodded. Yes, why? I'm fine. I just think that this general is really impressive. Gu Yundong took a sip of tea. At this moment, they were sitting in a corner of the most lively tea house in the prefectural city. Their clothes were inconspicuous, and Duan was sitting in the darkest corner with her head lowered. Suddenly, Duan heard a voice. The person's words made Duan tense up. "Have you heard? Second Master Duan from the Duan residence went to the general residence yesterday to visit this general. Do you think Second Master Duan knew Lord Dou in the past and the two of them are friends?" Really? Are Second Master Duan and Lord Do friends? Hee, it was my brother who said it. Yesterday, he personally saw Second Master Duan leave the general's residence, and he was even personally sent out by young Master Do. The two of them seemed to be chatting happily. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1243, Two Different Opinions. Wow, he actually got young Master Do to personally send him out. That meant that they were most likely on good terms. Duan clenched her fists as she listened. She looked at Yundong in a panic. Yundong, what should we do? If second uncle knows General Do and has General Do as his backer, can we defeat him? Can my brother still be found? Yundong patted her hand. Calm down. The matter is still unclear. We can't judge based on hearsay. Duan was very flustered, but she forced herself to calm down. She bit her lower lip hard and nodded. Yundong saw that she still looked uneasy and knew that she would not be able to calm down for a while. She simply stood up and said, "Let's go back to the inn first. We won't get any useful information here." Duan subconsciously got up and followed behind Yundong. The group returned to the inn. Duan followed behind Yundong. Seeing this, Yundong could only say, "Xiaowen has already taken your letter to your Uncle Lin. If everything goes well, your Uncle Lin will definitely investigate the whereabouts of your two maidservants after receiving the letter. The first thing we have to do now is to bring your maidservants out safely. There's no hurry for anything else. We have to take it one step at a time. It's useless for you to think too much." Duan finally listened. She took a deep breath and nodded. "You're right. It's just hearsay outside. Even if my second uncle knows General Do, as long as my brother comes back, he will definitely have a way to deal with him." Hearing this, Duan calmed down. Before Xiaowen returned, the few of them had lunch first. Yundong and Xiaoqing went downstairs to eat in the lobby, while Duan and Tong Shuitao stayed in the room. Just like the tea house, most of the things in the lobby of the inn were about General Do. However, there was also news about Second Master Duan. However, it was different from what they had heard in the tea house. "Have you heard? The Duan family is going to marry the general's family." "What? Are you serious?" "Of course it's true. Yesterday, Second Master Duan even personally went to the general residence to discuss the marriage between the two families. It was young Master Do who personally sent Second Master Duan out. That respectful attitude was clearly someone's attitude towards his future father-in-law. Wow, what's going to happen if the Duan family and the general's family get married? The Duan family is already the richest family in Wanqing Prefecture. If they have a general backing them, won't they be able to do whatever they want in Wanqing Prefecture? Do you think this Duan family will become the second Xian family? Shoo, do you want to die? How can you say such things? However, if Second Master Duan really marries General Do, the Duan family will really fall into Second Master Duan's hands. That's not necessarily true. The Duan family's eldest young master is just missing. He might come back one day. He's very powerful. Second Master Duan might not be able to defeat him. General Do looks like a good official who is impartial and makes decisions for the people. How can he snatch the Duan family's eldest young master's assets just because he has a marriage alliance with Second Master Duan? The politics are very complicated. It's hard to say who he's helping. Yundong and Xiaoqing looked at each other. Unexpectedly, when they looked up, they saw Xiaowen walking in. The two of them immediately stood up and called out to Xiaowen. The three of them went upstairs together. As soon as they entered the room, Duan looked at Xiaowen anxiously and asked expectantly, "How did it go? Did you give the letter to Uncle Lin? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1244, Another bad news. However, Xiaowen shook his head and took out the letter. "No. Duan Wan's expression froze and she looked at him in shock. You didn't see Uncle Lin? Xiaowan sighed and his expression was a little ugly. I've seen him, but the Uncle Lin you mentioned might not be loyal to your brother. He should have already submitted to Second Master Duan. Duan Wan's expression changed drastically, and she fell onto the chair. How? How? Gu Yundong frowned. This was bad news. The situation was very unfavorable for Duan Wan. However, Duan Wan suddenly raised her head and looked at Xiaowan. Are you sure that Uncle Lin has joined my second uncle? Are you sure? Xiaowan nodded. I deliberately pretended to be a customer and went to his shop to buy things. I originally wanted to take the opportunity to secretly give the letter to him. I didn't expect to see a woman walk out of the backyard of his shop. He talked to her before she left. At that time, I was close and vaguely heard the woman say the word second. I became suspicious, so I didn't give the letter to Uncle Lin for the time being. After the woman left, I followed her. Later, I saw her enter a restaurant and stand behind the Duan family's second madam. Xiaowan used to be a beggar, so he was very sensitive in this aspect. He was especially good at reading people's expressions. At that time, he felt that the relationship between Uncle Lin and that woman was unusual. Although there was no physical contact, the two of them gave off a very ambiguous feeling when they stood together. Uncle Lin looked at the woman affectionately. After hearing everything, Duan Wan's expression changed, but she still asked in disbelief, what does that woman look like? After Xiaowan described it, Duan Wan's expression became even worse. That's my second aunt's housekeeper. A few years ago, her husband passed away and she has been alone since. She's someone my second aunt trusts. Now that he said that, what else could he not understand? Uncle Lin had probably been turned by second aunt Duan's honey trap. The woman was indeed good-looking, and judging from her age, she was only in her early 20s. She was in her prime. Duan Wan gritted her teeth, her heart filled with hatred. However, Gu Yundong was very calm. We've also analyzed this matter. Since your second uncle dares to cause trouble at this time, he must have something to rely on. It's not like he was completely unprepared. Since Uncle Lin can't be trusted, let's change to another person. It can't be that all the managers have been instigated to defect. Duan Wan nodded vigorously. Yes, not everyone is as ungrateful as Uncle Lin. She could not panic. It did not matter. She was not alone now. She was no longer alone like a few days ago. She had Gu Yundong and her husband by her side. They were so powerful, so what was there to be afraid of? Look, hadn't Uncle Lin been found out? Duan Wan took a deep breath and thought about it again. This time, she was much more cautious. She no longer made her own judgment. She only told them about the manager's daily behavior and his brother's evaluation. She asked Gu Yundong and the others to help find out who was most trustworthy. In the end, Gu Yundong and Xiaoqi Yuan chose a person who did not seem particularly outstanding or loyal to Duan Wan. They asked Duan Wan to write a new letter and send it over. Duan Wan hesitated, wondering why they chose this person. However, she couldn't figure it out herself, so she simply listened to smart people. Therefore, she carefully wrote a letter and handed it back to Xiaowan. Xiaowan made another trip. When he returned, it was already 2 hours later. This time, he did not bring the letter back. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1245, Meeting Uncle Yu. Next, let's wait for the news. Duan Wan exhaled and nodded. However, the news came faster than she thought. The next morning, Xiaowan brought back news about shopkeeper Luo. Shopkeeper Luo asked them to meet at Anhui Restaurant, which was a street not far from here. Gu Yundong and the others tidied up, leaving Tong Shuitao and Xiaowan to wait at the inn. The three of them headed to Anhui Restaurant. They left early and arrived at the restaurant before lunch. Xiaoqi Yuan specially looked around the restaurant before going to the private room on the second floor. They chose a good spot. When they opened the window, they could see the people coming in from the entrance. Duan was a little nervous and got up several times to see if shopkeeper Luo had arrived. It was not until noon that shopkeeper Luo appeared at the door in a low-key manner. Shopkeeper Luo was not eye-catching to begin with. When he was expressionless, he looked very unlikable. No wonder Duan said that shopkeeper Luo was not very popular and Duan Xian would not hand over many important things to him. It was not that he did not trust him, but shopkeeper Luo's expression was as if someone owed him millions of taels of silver. It was very easy for such a person to fail when he went out to discuss business with others. Therefore, shopkeeper Luo was suitable for staying in the rear. Shopkeeper Luo came in. When he saw Gu Yundong and Xiaoxi, he was slightly stunned. However, the next moment, he saw Duan's slightly excited eyes and walked up to her in a few steps. Eldest Mississippi. Uncle Luo. Duan stood up, not knowing what to do. Shopkeeper Luo waved his hand and let her sit. Then, he asked, they're my friends. Thanks to them, they saved me. Shopkeeper Luo immediately thanked Xiaoxi and Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong waved her hand. There's no need to thank us. You guys continue chatting. Well, go out first. Duan looked at them nervously, but Gu Yundong still went out. There were some things that Duan had to face personally. She could not help her sort everything out. Shopkeeper Luo sighed in his heart. Eldest Miss was lucky to have met a benefactor who helped her. After they left, shopkeeper Luo said, I already know everything, Eldest Mississippi, I'm sorry, we didn't consider it carefully. I didn't expect Second Master to actually attack you. Fortunately, Eldest Miss came back safely. Eldest Miss, don't worry. Eldest Young Master will definitely be fine. Well, wait for him to come back. Duan's nose was a little sore. She hummed heavily. I also believe that my brother will come back. Shopkeeper Luo said, as for what Eldest Miss said in the letter about Jilan and Huilan, I've already asked someone last night. They're both in the Duan manor now, but what? Duan asked anxiously. Shopkeeper Luo sighed. It's just that both of them are injured. I heard from the maids in the residence that Second Madam beat them up on the grounds that they lost Eldest Miss, and she didn't let the doctor treat them. They're running a high fever and their condition isn't good. Duan suddenly stood up and clenched her fists tightly. This old woman. Eldest Miss, calm down first. Since Second Madam didn't kill or sell them, she's probably waiting for Eldest Miss to fall into her trap. We have to consider this matter at length so that we don't fall into Second Madam's trap. Duan gritted her teeth and sat back down. Gu Yundong and Xiaoxi, who were outside the door, had already gone downstairs. The two of them chose a seat facing the door and sat down. Unexpectedly, just as she was about to order, she saw Uncle Yu enter. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1246, Uncle Yes. Second Spring. Gu Yundong looked at Uncle Yu in surprise. She had wanted to raise her hand to greet him. Unexpectedly, there was another person following behind Yu Yanghong. It was a woman who looked to be in her 30s. She followed Yu Yanghong's footsteps. Yu Yanghong did not see Gu Yundong. He quickly found a table next to them and sat down. Gu Yundong turned her head curiously. Yu Yanghong's back was facing him. The woman sat beside him and poured him water eagerly. Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows. What was going on? Was Uncle Yu going to develop a second relationship? Just as she was thinking about it, she heard Yu Yanghong's impatient voice. If you have something to say, say it. I still have a lot of things to do in my shop. I'm very busy. I know that brother Yu is busy, but no matter how busy you have to rest, right? Otherwise, how can your body take it? Besides, isn't Boss Zhang working in the shop? Why does he need you, the boss, to do it yourself? The woman covered her mouth and laughed. She glanced at Yu Yanghong shyly. Yu Yanghong couldn't help but shiver. He said seriously, I've already said that I'm not the boss. The boss of the provision store is someone else. Our family works for someone. At most, we're half a shopkeeper. The woman laughed. Brother, you're doing it again. If it's not your shop, why can you make all the decisions? If you're not the owner, why would your family of 3 work in the shop all day long? Which boss was so blind? It was fine if they hired Yu Yanghong and Eugene, but they even wanted someone as old as Grandpa Yu? Who were they lying to? Yu Yanghong had a headache. He had explained many times, but this person just didn't believe him. But he could not casually tell outsiders about Gu Yundong. He was really impatient and decided not to dwell on this matter. He said directly, previously, you said that someone had designs on our shop, so I followed you out. You should tell me what happened first. The woman smiled and said, why are you in such a hurry? We haven't ordered the dishes and haven't eaten yet. We haven't even spoken much. Yu Yanghong frowned. Then order the dishes first. He suppressed the frustration in his heart and called for the waiter to serve the dishes first. Gu Yundong and Xiaoxi, who were at the table beside them, saw this scene and spoke softly. Someone has designs on our shop. Who's so shameless? Do you think what she said is true? Xiaoxi thought for a moment and said, previously, Duan Qian protected the provision store. Now that Duan Qian is missing, it's indeed possible that someone took advantage of that and wanted to take over the provision store. Didn't you say that the location of the shop was good, there were many people coming and going, and business was booming? Gu Yundong pursed her lips. In that case, it was fortunate that they had arrived in time. She glanced at the woman again. Look at this person's eyes. Does she have any feelings for uncle? Xiaoxi glanced over and happened to see the woman blinking at Yu Yanghong with a lustful expression. He quickly turned his head and looked at his wife's face to wash his eyes. Then, he nodded affirmatively. Most likely. As soon as he finished speaking, the dishes at Yu Yanghong's table were served. He spoke again, can you say it now? The woman took a bite and sighed in satisfaction. You still say that you're not the boss. It's not cheap to eat here. If you're half a shopkeeper, how can you bear to spend this money? Yu Yanghong couldn't take it anymore. You said you wanted to try this restaurant's signature fish, so I came. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1247, Second Master Duan comes to the store. The woman's face instantly turned red. So you care so much about my words. I said I wanted to come, so you brought me here. Yu Yanghong, Gu Yundong and Xiaoqing were speechless. However, the woman continued, Brother Yu, actually, I also think that you're a good person. Look, your wife has been gone for a few years, and I'm alone. Why don't we make do with each other? This way, your shop will be my shop. Whoever has designs on your shop will make things difficult for me. I'll definitely tell you who that person is. Gu Yundong was amazed. Were there still such open-minded women in this day and age? Yu Yanghong was also stunned. He looked in disbelief at the woman in front of him whose eyes were emitting light. His body trembled violently. He had thought that this woman might want to get some benefits from him, such as a meal at Anhui restaurant or asking him to give her some money. However, he did not expect this person to have such thoughts. How was this possible? Yu Yanghong's expression changed, and he flatly refused, that's impossible. I still have to observe mourning for my mother for 3 years. Gu Yundong held her forehead. This reason was very ordinary. As expected, the woman did not care at all. Isn't it full in less than a year? We can be engaged first. I'm not in a hurry. I already said that the shop isn't mine. Why are you still lying to me? Don't worry, I won't covet your shop. I know that your shop will be left to your son in the future. I just want to take good care of you because you've worked hard. There are only 3 men in your family. It's inconvenient without a woman to manage it. Yu Yanghong regretted coming out with her. He felt that he might have been tricked. Seeing that he was speechless, the woman immediately threw him another coquettish look. Don't worry, after we're married, I'll definitely take good care of the entire family. We're both to be married for the second time, so those betrothal gifts and dowry don't need to be much. A little something is enough. As for me, Yu Yanghong's forehead was covered in sweat when he heard this. He felt that if he didn't stop her, this woman would probably have even planned to give birth. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't think of a suitable reason. Seeing that she was getting more and more exaggerated, he blurted out in a moment of desperation, I don't like you. The entire world fell silent. Gu Yundong almost choked. Xiao Yuan hurriedly patted her back. Calm down. Uncle Yu is good. Gu Yundong held back her laughter and gave him a thumbs up. Xiao Yuan raised his chin. He's done for. As expected, after a moment of silence, the woman suddenly stood up. She pointed at Yu Yanghong and said, All right, you're good. You're really good. You don't like me, right? Then wait for your shop to be demolished. You old fart, do you really think you're so handsome? Do you think you're so great just because you have money? Pfft. After saying that, she turned around and left. After taking a few steps, she came back unwillingly. She glanced at the dishes on the table and sat down to eat resentfully. Gu Yundong and the other two were speechless. When the woman was almost done eating, she stood up fiercely, splashed the tea on the table on Yu Yanghong's face, and strode away. Gu Yundong looked at Yu Yanghong, who had a black face and was in a sorry state, and sighed. It was at this moment that the eldest son of the Zhang family ran into the restaurant, panting and looking very flustered. Yanghong, something bad has happened. The Duan family's second Master Duan has brought young Master Do to our shop. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible.